A single dad working a catering shift makes one mistake in front of the wrong woman, a tech billionaire known for destroying careers over less. But instead of being fired, he's offered a deal that could change everything. What starts as survival becomes something far more dangerous when the lines between business and truth begin to blur, and the world they've both built starts to crack. Will he risk losing everything he's fought to protect, or walk away from the one person who finally sees him? If you're hooked, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Noah Hayes stood at the corner of the rooftop terrace, sweating through his white button-down despite the cool evening breeze. The city stretched out behind him, glittering and indifferent, while around him people in clothes that cost more than his rent sipped champagne and laughed at jokes he didn't understand. He wasn't supposed to be here, not really. He was supposed to be invisible, just another body in black and white, carrying trays and refilling glasses. But Marcus, the catering company manager, had called him 3 hours ago in a panic. Someone hadn't shown. The client was important. The pay was double. Noah had said yes before Marcus finished talking because his daughter's preschool tuition was due in 4 days and his bank account had $217 in it. So here he was, balancing a tray of hors d'oeuvres he couldn't pronounce, trying not to make eye contact with anyone who looked like they belonged. "Excuse me." Noah turned. A woman stood beside him, mid-20s maybe, with dark hair pulled back in a way that looked effortless but probably wasn't. She wore a charcoal blazer over a silk blouse, simple jewelry, no wedding ring. Her expression was unreadable. "Yes, ma'am?" She picked up one of the small pastries from his tray, examined it briefly, then set it on a napkin without eating it. "You're new." It wasn't a question, but Noah nodded anyway. "First time working this kind of event, I can tell." She didn't say it meanly, just matter of fact. "You keep standing in the same spot, makes you conspicuous. You're supposed to circulate." Noah felt heat crawl up his neck. "Right. Sorry." "Don't apologize." She tilted her head slightly, studying him in a way that made him feel like a specimen under glass. "What's your name?" "Noah." "Noah what?" "Hayes." She nodded once, as if filing it away. "Lila Grant." The name didn't mean anything to him, but the way she said it suggested it should. He shifted his weight, the tray growing heavier. "I should probably—" "How old are you?" The question threw him. 32. "And you work for—" "Prestige Catering, but it's just part-time. I do contracting work mostly. Construction, renovations, whatever I can pick up." Lila's eyes narrowed slightly, not in suspicion, but in calculation. "You have a family?" Noah hesitated. He didn't know why this woman was asking, didn't know what the right answer was. But something about the directness in her gaze made him tell the truth. "A daughter. She's 4. "Wife?" "No, just me." Lila nodded again, that same filing away gesture. Then she reached into her blazer pocket and pulled out a business card. Plain white, black text. No logo. Just a name, a number, and an email address. "I might have something for you," she said, "if you're interested in making more than you do carrying trays." Noah took the card, confused. "What kind of something?" "The kind that requires discretion and adaptability. You'd be attending events like this one, not as staff." He stared at her. "I don't understand." "You will if you call." Lila glanced past him, her attention already shifting. "Think about it, but don't take too long." She walked away before he could respond, disappearing into the crowd like she'd never been there. Noah looked down at the card in his hand, then slipped it into his pocket and went back to work. 2 days later, Noah sat in a coffee shop 3 blocks from his apartment, turning Lila Grant's business card over in his fingers. He'd Googled her the night before. 28 years old, founder and managing partner of Meridian Ventures, a tech investment firm that had backed 3 companies now worth over $1 billion each. She'd been featured in Forbes, Bloomberg, TechCrunch. The articles called her ruthless, visionary, intimidating. He had no idea why someone like that would want anything to do with him, but his bank account still had $217 in it. Preschool tuition was still due, and Mia's doctor had called yesterday about scheduling her follow-up appointment, which meant another copay he couldn't afford. He pulled out his phone and dialed before he could talk himself out of it. She answered on the second ring. "Lila Grant?" Hi, this is Noah Hayes. We met at... I know who you are. Are you calling because you're interested or because you're curious? Both, I guess. Fair enough. There was a pause, the sound of papers shuffling. Can you meet tomorrow? 2 o'clock. There's a restaurant called Aurelius on 5th. Do you know it? No, but I can find it. Good. Wear something decent, not a catering uniform. I don't... But she'd already hung up. Aurelius turned out to be the kind of place where the host looked at Noah like he'd wandered in by mistake. The ceilings were high, the lighting warm and low, the tables spaced far enough apart that conversation stayed private. Noah had worn his only suit, navy blue, a little worn at the elbows, bought for his sister's wedding 3 years ago. It didn't fit quite right anymore, a little tight across the shoulders from the manual labor he'd been doing, but it was the best he had. Lila was already seated when the host led him to a corner table. She wore black today, sleek and professional, her hair down but still controlled. She didn't stand, just gestured to the chair across from her. You're on time. That's good. Noah sat, acutely aware that he didn't belong here. You want to tell me what this is about? Lila folded her hands on the table. I need someone to accompany me to certain events. Dinners, galas, investor meetings, industry conferences. Someone who can hold a conversation, follow social cues, and not embarrass me. You need a date. I need a companion. There's a difference. Noah frowned. I don't get it. You're successful. He stopped himself, unsure how to finish that sentence without sounding stupid. Attractive? Lila's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Yes, but in my world, being young, female, and successful makes people uncomfortable. They don't take me seriously unless I fit into a narrative they recognize. I've tried ignoring it, tried proving myself over and over, and it works to a point. But perception still matters. Having someone beside me changes the dynamic. It shifts how I'm seen. So you want me to be, what? Arm candy? I want you to be present, engaged, believable. She leaned back slightly. I'm not looking for someone to fawn over me or play a part badly. I'm looking for someone genuine. Someone who doesn't already belong in that world, because the people who do are predictable. You're not. Noah shook his head. You don't even know me. I know enough. You work multiple jobs to support your daughter. You showed up to that event on short notice and did the work even though you were clearly uncomfortable. You didn't try to impress me when we spoke. Most people do. She paused. And you're not bad looking, which helps, but it's not the main thing. He didn't know whether to be flattered or insulted. What's the pay? $2,000 per event. More if it requires travel or overnight stays. I'll cover wardrobe, transportation, anything you need. You'll attend roughly 2 to 3 events per month, sometimes more depending on my schedule. Noah did the math in his head. Even at 2 events a month, that was $4,000. Enough to cover tuition, medical bills, groceries, maybe even start saving. It felt too good to be real. What's the catch? Lila met his eyes, steady and unflinching. The catch is that once you agree, you're all in. No half measures. If you show up fully. You don't disappear halfway through because it gets uncomfortable or complicated. I need reliability. And if I say no, then you say no. I'll find someone else. Noah thought about Mia, about the stack of overdue notices on his kitchen counter, about the constant weight of never having enough. He thought about his daughter's face when he had to tell her they couldn't go to the zoo this weekend because he couldn't afford the gas. Okay, he said. I'm in. Lila extended her hand across the table. Good. We start Friday. Friday came faster than Noah expected. Lila had sent over details the day before. Location, dress code, background on the event. It was a private dinner hosted by a venture capital firm, invitation only, 20 guests. His role was simple. Be present, be polite, defer to her when necessary, but don't be invisible. She'd also sent a tailor to his apartment. The man had measured him without comment, taken notes, and left. The next morning, a garment bag appeared at Noah's door containing a charcoal suit that fit perfectly, a white dress shirt, and a tie he didn't recognize the brand of, but suspected was expensive. Mia had watched him get dressed with wide eyes. You look fancy, Daddy. I have to go to a work thing tonight, sweetheart. Grandma's going to come stay with you. Is it a party? Sort of. She'd hugged his leg and he'd felt the weight of what he was doing settle over him. This wasn't just about money. It was about building something stable for her, something that didn't involve scrambling every month. Lila picked him up at 7. She drove herself, a sleek black Tesla that moved through the city like it owned the streets. She wore deep green tonight, a dress that was elegant without trying too hard, her hair swept up.
"You clean up well," she said as he climbed into the passenger seat. "Thanks, you too." She glanced at him, amused. "You're nervous." "Yeah." "Don't be. Just follow my lead. If someone asks how we know each other, tell them we met through mutual friends. Keep it vague, don't volunteer information, but don't be evasive either. And whatever you do, don't let anyone intimidate you. Half of these people are bluffing their way through life just like everyone else."
The dinner was held in a penthouse overlooking the river. The space was immaculate, floor-to-ceiling windows, modern art on the walls, waitstaff that moved like ghosts. Noah recognized a few faces from business news, people whose names he'd heard but never thought he'd meet. Lila introduced him without ceremony. "This is Noah Hayes. Noah, this is Richard Castellan, managing partner at Apex Capital." Richard was in his 50s, silver-haired, with the kind of confident handshake that bordered on aggressive. "Hayes, what do you do, Noah?" "I work in construction, renovations mostly." Richard's eyebrows lifted slightly. "Interesting, not the usual crowd Lila runs with." "That's kind of the point," Lila said smoothly and steered Noah toward the bar. The evening unfolded in a series of careful conversations. Noah quickly learned that the trick wasn't to talk much. It was to listen, to ask the right follow-up question, to let people fill the silence with their own self-importance. He watched Lila work the room, watched how she shifted tones depending on who she was talking to, how she could be sharp with one person and warm with another without ever seeming fake. At one point, a woman in a red dress cornered them near the windows. She was younger than most of the other guests, early 30s maybe, with an edge to her smile. "Lila, I didn't expect to see you here." "Claire." Lila's tone was cordial but cool. "I didn't realize you were on the invite list." "Last-minute addition. You know how Richard is." Claire's gaze slid to Noah. "And who's this?" "Noah Hayes," he said, extending his hand. Claire shook it, her grip brief. "Claire Devereaux. I run acquisitions for Helix Group." She looked back at Lila. "Didn't know you were seeing anyone." "I don't announce my personal life on LinkedIn," Lila replied. Claire laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Of course not. That would be too transparent." She sipped her wine. "How long have you two been together?" "A few months," Lila said before Noah could answer. Fast work." Claire's smile turned sharper. "Well, enjoy the evening. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other." She drifted away, and Noah glanced at Lila. "Friend of yours?" "Competitor. She's been trying to poach one of my portfolio companies for the last 6 months." "She seemed hostile?" "Yes, that's Claire. She doesn't like that I'm younger and doing better." Noah nodded slowly. "This whole thing is like a chess game, isn't it?" Lila looked at him, something unreadable in her expression. "Exactly like that." Thanks. The night ended just after 11. Lila drove him home in silence, the city lights sliding past the windows. Noah felt drained in a way that had nothing to do with physical exhaustion. It was the effort of staying sharp, of not saying the wrong thing, of constantly being watched. "You did well," Lila said as she pulled up outside his building. "I barely said anything. You didn't have to. You were there, you were present, and you didn't fold under pressure. That's what matters." She put the car in park but left the engine running. "Same time next week. Another dinner, different crowd." Noah unbuckled his seatbelt but didn't get out yet. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Why me? Really? You could hire an actor, someone trained for this." Lila was quiet for a moment. "Because actors perform. I don't need a performance. I need someone who doesn't have to pretend to be real." She looked at him. "You're uncomfortable in that world, but you don't hide it. That's rare. Most people either fake confidence or crumble. You just exist. It's disarming." Noah didn't know what to say to that. "Get some sleep," Lila said. "I'll send details tomorrow." He climbed out of the car, watched her drive away, and stood on the sidewalk for a long moment before heading inside. What? Over the next month, the events blurred together. A gallery opening where everyone spoke in hushed tones about art Noah didn't understand. A fundraiser for a tech nonprofit where he shook hands with a senator. A rooftop cocktail party where Lila introduced him to a man who just sold his company for $300 million and acted like it was no big deal. Noah learned to navigate it. He learned the unspoken rules, when to speak, when to stay quiet, how to deflect questions without seeming rude. He learned that most of the people in Lila's world were terrified of being exposed as frauds, which made them either overly aggressive or painfully insecure. And he learned that Lila was better at this than anyone gave her credit for. She wasn't just smart, she was strategic, always 3 steps ahead, always reading the room. But there were moments, brief and fleeting, when he saw the effort it took. The way her jaw tightened when someone dismissed her opinion. The way her smile never quite reached her eyes when she had to laugh at a bad joke. They didn't talk much outside of the events. Communication happened through texts, logistics, schedules, reminders. But slowly, something shifted. She started asking his opinion, not about business, but about smaller things. Which restaurant to choose for a meeting, whether a particular dress was too much for a daytime event, what he thought of someone they'd met. It felt like trust, though Noah wasn't sure if that was the right word. One night, after a particularly exhausting investor gala, Lila offered to drive him home as usual, but instead of heading straight there, she pulled into an empty parking lot overlooking the river. "I need a minute," she said, cutting the engine. Noah didn't argue. They sat in silence, the water dark and vast in front of them. "Do you ever feel like you're playing a role even when you're not?" Lila asked suddenly. Noah thought about it. "Yeah, most of the time, actually." "With your daughter?" "No, never with her." He paused. "But everywhere else, yeah. Like I'm trying to be the version of myself that fits what people need." Lila nodded, staring out at the water. "I've been doing this for so long, I'm not sure I know who I am when I'm not performing." It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to him. "For what it's worth," Noah said quietly, "I think the person you are when you're not performing is probably worth knowing." She looked at him then, really looked at him, and for a moment the carefully controlled mask slipped. He saw exhaustion there, loneliness, the weight of always having to be the smartest, the sharpest, the most in control. "Thank you," she said. They didn't talk about it again. But something had changed. The breaking point came 6 weeks in. It was a tech summit, one of the biggest events of the year. Lila had warned him it would be high pressure. Investors, founders, journalists, everyone trying to make deals or break stories. She'd been tense all morning, her texts clipped and businesslike. Noah arrived at the venue early, dressed in another suit Lila had sent over. The space was massive, all glass and steel, filled with people who moved with purpose. He found Lila near the registration desk, talking to a man in an expensive watch and a permanent smirk. "Noah?" she said as he approached. "This is Jason Kraft. He runs Dominion Capital." Jason looked Noah up and down with the kind of casual arrogance that set Noah's teeth on edge. "Hayes, right? Lila mentioned you." "Did she?" "Yeah, said you're in construction." Jason's smirk widened. "Must be interesting going from hammering nails to rubbing elbows with the tech elite." Noah felt Lila stiffen beside him, but he kept his voice even. "It's different, sure, but people are people. Doesn't matter if you're building houses or building companies." Spoken like someone who's never built a company. "Jason!" Lila's voice was sharp. "We're running late. Excuse us." She steered Noah away before he could respond, her hand tight on his arm. They walked in silence until they were out of earshot. "Sorry about that," she said. "Jason's an ass." "I've met worse." "Still, he was out of line." She glanced at him. "You handled it well." "I didn't handle it. I just didn't punch him." Lila almost smiled. "That counts." The summit was a marathon. Panel discussions, networking sessions, endless small talk. Noah stayed close to Lila, falling into the rhythm they'd developed, but he could feel the tension building in her, the way her responses grew sharper as the day wore on. It all came to a head during the evening reception. Claire Devereaux was there, holding court near the bar with a cluster of investors. She spotted Lila and waved her over with a smile that made Noah's instincts flare. "Lila, come join us. We were just talking about Meridian's latest fund." Lila approached cautiously, Noah trailing behind. What about it? Oh, just that the returns have been modest, compared to projections, anyway. Claire's tone was light, almost playful, but her eyes were cold. Some people are wondering if you're losing your edge. Some people talk too much, Lila replied. Maybe. Or maybe they're just noticing a pattern. Claire turned to the group. Lila's always been brilliant, don't get me wrong, but brilliance only gets you so far when you're trying to prove something. Sometimes it makes you reckless. Noah saw the flash of anger in Lila's eyes before she buried it. I'm not trying to prove anything to you, Claire. Of course not, but you are trying to prove something. That's why you're here with... Claire gestured vaguely at Noah. Well, whatever this is. The group had gone quiet, watching. Noah stepped forward before he could think better of it. You know what I've noticed, he said, his voice calm but cutting. People who spend all their time talking about other people's work usually aren't doing much of their own. Claire's smile faltered. Excuse me? You heard me. You've spent the last 2 minutes tearing Lila down instead of talking about anything you've actually accomplished. That tells me everything I need to know. The silence stretched. Someone coughed. Claire's face went red. Who the hell do you think you are? She snapped. Someone who doesn't have time for this. Noah looked at Lila. We done here? Lila's expression was unreadable, but she nodded. Yeah, we're done. They walked away together, leaving Claire fuming behind them. Passé. Lila didn't speak until they were outside, standing in the cool night air. Then she turned to him, and for the first time since he'd met her, she looked genuinely shaken. You didn't have to do that. I know. You just made an enemy. Claire has a long memory. So do I. Lila shook her head, something like disbelief in her eyes. Why? Why risk it? Noah met her gaze. Because she was wrong, and someone needed to say it. For a long moment, Lila just stared at him. Then, slowly, she smiled. Not the controlled professional smile she wore at events. A real one. Thank you, she said quietly. Don't mention it. They stood there in the dark, the noise of the city around them, and Noah realized something he'd been avoiding for weeks. This wasn't just a job anymore. And that was going to be a problem. Noah couldn't sleep that night. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of his small bedroom, replaying the confrontation with Claire over and over. The look on her face. The silence that followed. The way Lila had smiled at him afterward. Genuine, unguarded, real. He'd crossed a line. He knew that. This was supposed to be simple. Show up, look presentable, don't cause problems. Instead, he'd inserted himself into Lila's world in a way that went beyond the arrangement. He'd defended her, publicly, against someone who clearly had power and connections. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Lila. You awake? Noah hesitated, then typed back. Yeah, can't sleep either. He waited, watching the 3 dots appear and disappear several times before her next message came through. What you did tonight was stupid. Noah felt his stomach drop, but it was also the most honest thing anyone's done for me in years. Thank you. He read it twice, then set the phone down without responding. What was he supposed to say to that? The next morning, Mia bounced into his room at 6:30, already dressed in mismatched clothes she'd picked out herself. Purple leggings, a yellow shirt with a dinosaur on it, and her light-up sneakers. Daddy, you promised we could go to the park today. Noah groaned, pulling the pillow over his face. I did, didn't I? Yep. You said if I was good all week, we'd go feed the ducks. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. Mia climbed onto the bed beside him, her hair a wild tangle of curls that reminded him painfully of her mother. 4 years, and some days it still felt like yesterday. Other days, it felt like a lifetime ago. Okay, sweetheart, let me make breakfast first. They spent the morning at the park. Mia threw torn pieces of bread at the ducks with the kind of fearless enthusiasm only a 4-year-old could muster, shrieking with delight every time one of them got too close. Noah sat on a bench, watching her, feeling the weight of everything settle back into place. This was real. His daughter, the park, the simple rhythm of their life together, the world he'd been stepping into with Lila, the fancy dinners, the power plays, the careful performances. That wasn't real. Not for him, anyway. He was just visiting. His phone buzzed. Another text from Lila. Lunch tomorrow? I want to talk about next steps.
Noah typed back quickly. Sure. Where? I'll come to you. Send me your address.
He paused, looking around at the park, at the playground equipment that needed repairs, at the fence with graffiti on it. Then he looked at Mia, who was now trying to convince a particularly stubborn duck to take bread directly from her hand. He sent Lila his address. She showed up at noon the next day, driving a different car this time, something smaller, less flashy. Noah watched from the window as she parked and climbed out, dressed down in jeans and a simple sweater. It was the most casual he'd ever seen her. He opened the door before she could knock. Hey. Hey. Lila glanced past him into the apartment. Can I come in? Yeah, of course. Sorry. It's a mess. It wasn't, really. Noah kept the place clean because Mia had a talent for turning any space into chaos within minutes if he didn't stay on top of it. But compared to the penthouses and luxury venues he'd been visiting, his one-bedroom apartment probably looked like a shoebox. Lila stepped inside, taking it all in without judgment. The worn couch, the small kitchen table, the toys scattered in the corner, the drawings Mia had taped to the walls. Where's your daughter? My mom took her for the afternoon. I thought it'd be better to talk without a 4-year-old interrupting every 5 seconds. Lila smiled. Probably smart. Noah gestured to the couch. You want something to drink? I've got coffee, water, juice boxes. Coffee's good. He made it in the cheap drip machine he'd had since college, hyper-aware of how domestic this all felt. Lila Grant, tech investor and millionaire, sitting on his sagging couch while he poured coffee into mugs that didn't match. He handed her one and sat in the chair across from her. So, next steps. Lila wrapped her hands around the mug, looking down at it. I want to be honest with you about something. Noah's chest tightened. Okay. When I started this arrangement, it was purely strategic. I needed someone beside me to change perception, and you fit the profile. I didn't expect... She trailed off, searching for words. I didn't expect to actually like having you around. Noah didn't know what to say to that. You're different, Lila continued. You don't bullshit me. You don't try to impress me or use me as a stepping stone to something else. And the way you handled Claire, she shook her head. Most people in my world would have stayed silent or tried to smooth it over. You just called her out. Do you know how rare that is? I wasn't trying to be rare. I was just pissed off. Exactly. You were genuine, and that's exactly what I need more of. Lila set the mug down on the coffee table. I want to increase the frequency of events, maybe 4 or 5 per month instead of 2 or 3, which means more money, but also more of your time. Noah leaned back, processing. That's a lot. I know, and I know you have your daughter to think about. I'm not asking you to drop everything, but I need someone I can count on, and right now, that's you. He thought about the money. 4 or 5 events at $2,000 each. That was $8,000 to $10,000 a month. That was stability. That was Mia's preschool paid in full, medical bills cleared, maybe even a small cushion for emergencies. But it was also more time in a world that didn't feel like his. More performances, more scrutiny, more risk. Can I think about it? Lila nodded. Of course. Take a few days, but Noah, she met his eyes. If you do this, I need you all in. Not just showing up, but really being present. Because after what happened with Claire, people are going to be watching you more closely, and I need to know you can handle that. What if I can't? Then we stop. No hard feelings, but I think you can. She stood, smoothing her jeans. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for. Noah walked her to the door. She paused on the threshold, looking back at him. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I'm glad it's you. Then she was gone, leaving Noah alone with a decision he wasn't sure how to make. He talked to his mom about it that evening, after Mia had gone to bed. Linda Hayes was 62, sharp as ever, with the kind of no-nonsense attitude that had gotten her through raising 3 kids on a secretary's salary after Noah's father left. She sat at his kitchen table, drinking tea and listening as he explained the situation. So let me get this straight, she said when he finished. This woman is paying you thousands of dollars to go to fancy parties with her. It's more complicated than that. Is it? Linda raised an eyebrow. Because it sounds pretty straightforward to me. You show up, you look nice, you don't embarrass her. That's the job. It's not just about the job anymore, Mom. Noah struggled to find the words. She's starting to trust me. rely on me. And I don't know if I can handle that kind of responsibility. Linda set her mug down, fixing him with the look that had terrified him as a teenager. Noah Michael Hayes. You've been handling responsibility since you were 28 years old and your wife died, leaving you with a newborn baby and a mountain of medical debt. You think attending parties is harder than that? It's different. How? Because with Mia, I know what I'm doing. I'm her dad. That makes sense. But this, being part of Lila's world, I don't belong there. I'm faking it. Everyone's faking it, sweetheart. That's the secret nobody tells you. The people in suits, the people with money, the people who look like they have it all figured out, they're all just making it up as they go. Linda reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. The question isn't whether you belong there. The question is whether the money is worth your time, and only you can answer that. Noah looked at his mother, this woman who'd sacrificed everything to give her kids a stable life, and realized she was right. This wasn't about belonging. It was about survival, about building something better for Mia. I think I'm going to say yes, he said. Linda smiled. Good. Now pour me some more tea and tell me about this woman. Is she pretty? Mom. What? I'm just asking. Noah texted Lila the next morning. I'm in. 4 to 5 events a month. Let's do it. Her response came back within minutes. Good. First one is Thursday. Black tie. I'll send details. Thursday turned out to be a charity gala at the city's Natural History Museum. The theme was Innovation and Conservation, which seemed to be an excuse for tech executives to feel good about themselves while drinking expensive wine under a suspended blue whale. Lila picked Noah up at 6. She wore midnight blue, a gown that somehow managed to be both elegant and understated, her hair swept up in a way that showed off her neck. Noah wore the tuxedo that had appeared at his door that morning, perfectly tailored, with a bow tie he'd had to YouTube how to tie. You look good, Lila said as he climbed into the car. You too. This one's going to be different, she said as they pulled into traffic. More press, more cameras. There's a red carpet. Just stay close to me, smile when appropriate, and if anyone asks you questions, keep your answers short and redirect to me. Red carpet. Noah felt his stomach twist. Like actual paparazzi? Not paparazzi. Event photographers, trade press, but yes, actual cameras. She glanced at him. You okay? Define okay. Nervous but functional. Then yeah, I'm okay. The museum was lit up like a palace, lights cutting through the evening darkness. Lila pulled up to valet parking, handed over her keys, and took Noah's arm as they approached the entrance. The red carpet was chaos. Photographers called out names, flashes went off in rapid succession, people posed and smiled with practiced ease. Lila navigated it like she'd done it 1,000 times, stopping at designated marks, turning slightly for better angles, keeping her expression serene and confident. Noah tried to do the same, but he felt exposed in a way he never had before. Every movement felt too stiff, every smile too forced. He was acutely aware that tomorrow pictures of him would exist on the internet, attached to Lila's name, and there was nothing he could do about it. Lila, over here! A woman with a press badge waved them over. Lila guided Noah toward her, her hand warm on his arm. Lila Grant, Tech Daily. Can we get a quick comment about Meridian's recent investments? We're excited about our portfolio's growth, Lila said smoothly, especially our clean energy sector. We think innovation and sustainability go hand in hand. And who's your guest tonight? Lila smiled. This is Noah Hayes. The reporter's eyes shifted to Noah with interest. Noah, how do you know Lila? Noah remembered the script. Keep it vague. We met through mutual friends. Turns out we have a lot in common. Such as? A belief that real value comes from building things that last. It wasn't a lie, exactly, just carefully worded. The reporter smiled, satisfied, and moved on to the next person. Inside, the museum had been transformed. The main hall glittered with tables draped in white, centerpieces of orchids and candles, waitstaff moving through the crowd with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. The blue whale hung overhead, silent and massive, watching everything. Noah recognized some faces from previous events. Richard Castellan was there, holding court near the bar. Jason Kraft stood by one of the fossil displays, laughing too loudly at something. and Claire Devereaux across the room locked eyes with Noah for just a moment before deliberately looking away. "She's still pissed," Noah murmured to Lila. "Good. Let her be." Lila accepted a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. "Come on, there's someone I want you to meet." She led him through the crowd to a quiet corner where an older man stood alone, studying a display of ancient pottery. He was maybe 70, with white hair and kind eyes, dressed in a tuxedo that looked like it had been made in the 1980s and maintained ever since. "Martin," Lila said warmly. The man turned, his face lighting up. "Lila, I was hoping you'd be here." They embraced briefly, and Lila gestured to Noah. "Martin, this is Noah Hayes. Noah, Martin Reeves. He was my professor at Stanford, business ethics and corporate responsibility." Martin extended his hand. "The infamous Noah. Lila's told me about you." Noah shook his hand, surprised. "She has?" "Indeed. She says you have an unusually strong moral compass for someone in her current orbit." Martin's eyes twinkled. "I take that as a compliment to both of you." "Martin's the reason I got into venture capital in the first place," Lila said. "He convinced me that money could be a tool for good if you used it right." "And you've proven me correct," Martin replied. "Though I wish you'd take more time to enjoy what you've built. You're always working." "That's what it takes." "Is it?" Martin looked at Noah. "What do you think, Noah? Does success require complete sacrifice?" Noah considered the question carefully. "I think it depends on what you're trying to succeed at. If you're trying to build something meaningful, yeah, it takes sacrifice. But if you sacrifice so much that you lose sight of why you started, then what's the point?" Martin smiled. "I like him, Lila. He's wise." "He's practical," Lila corrected. "It's refreshing." They talked for a while longer, Martin asking Noah about his work, his daughter, his life. It felt less like an interrogation and more like genuine curiosity. Noah found himself relaxing, talking about things he rarely discussed, how much he'd learned from renovating old houses, how Mia had his wife's laugh, how some days felt impossible, but he did them anyway. "You're a good father," Martin said eventually. "That's the hardest job there is." "I'm trying." "That's all any of us can do." Dinner was announced, and they moved to their assigned table. Noah found himself seated between Lila and a woman named Dr. Patricia Chen, a marine biologist who'd spent the last decade studying coral reef restoration. She was passionate, brilliant, and had no interest in small talk about tech investments, which Noah found deeply relieving. "So you're not in tech," Patricia said, more statement than question. "Construction, renovations." "Thank God. I was worried Lila had finally caved and started dating another venture capitalist." Patricia sipped her wine. "No offense to your profession, Lila." "None taken," Lila replied, amused. "It's not dating," Noah said automatically, then realized how defensive that sounded. "I mean, we're complicated?" Patricia offered. "That's what everyone in this room is, complicated and overcompensating for something." She leaned closer to Noah, her voice dropping. "Want to know a secret? Half the people here don't actually care about conservation. They're here because it looks good. The other half care deeply, but have no idea how to help beyond writing checks. You know which group is more useful? The ones writing checks? Exactly. At least they're honest about their limitations." She sat back. "But you build things with your hands. You create something tangible. That's real value. Don't let anyone here make you feel less than because you don't deal in abstractions." Noah glanced at Lila, who was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "I like her," he said. "Most people do," Lila replied. "Patricia doesn't suffer fools." "Neither do you." "True, but I'm better at hiding it." Dinner passed in a blur of courses. Salads with ingredients Noah couldn't identify, fish prepared in ways that seemed designed to impress rather than satisfy, desserts that were more art than food. Speeches were made, donations pledged, applause offered. Noah watched it all with a growing sense of surrealism. This was his life now, at least a few nights a month. After dinner, people mingled again. Noah excused himself to find the restroom, navigating through the crowd. He'd just rounded a corner when someone grabbed his arm. Jason Kraft stood there, drink in hand, that same smirk plastered on his face. "Hayes, got a minute?" Noah pulled his arm free. "Not really." Come on, just a friendly conversation. Jason gestured to a quiet alcove away from the main crowd. I wanted to apologize for the other day. I came on a little strong. Noah followed reluctantly, instincts warning him this wasn't actually an apology. It's fine. Good, good. Look, I'm just going to be straight with you. Jason set his drink down on a nearby ledge. Whatever you and Lila have going on, it's not going to last. Excuse me? I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm trying to help you. Lila doesn't do relationships. She does transactions. Everything with her is a calculation. And right now you're useful to her because you're different, you're novel. But the second that wears off, or the second you stop being useful, she'll drop you. That's just how she operates. Noah kept his voice level. You don't know anything about her. I know more than you think. I've been in this world a lot longer than you have. Jason leaned in slightly. She's brilliant. I'll give her that. But she's also ruthless. She has to be. That's how she got where she is. And you, he looked Noah up and down. You're out of your depth. This isn't your world, and it never will be. Maybe not, Noah said quietly. But at least I don't spend my time tearing other people down to feel better about myself. Jason's smirk faded. Watch yourself, Hayes. You made an enemy in Claire. You don't want to make another one in me. Is that a threat? It's advice from someone who's seen how this story ends. Jason picked up his drink and walked away, leaving Noah standing alone in the alcove. Noah's hands were shaking. He clenched them into fists, forcing himself to breathe slowly. Jason was trying to get under his skin, and it had worked. But the worst part was that some of what he'd said rang true. Noah was out of his depth. This wasn't his world. And eventually, Lila would realize that. He found her near the museum's planetarium entrance, talking to a small group of investors. She caught his eye, excused herself, and walked over. You okay? You look tense. I'm fine. Just ran into Jason. Lila's expression hardened. What did he say? Doesn't matter. Noah. He met her eyes. He said you're going to get tired of me eventually, that I'm just a novelty. Lila was quiet for a moment. Then she took his arm and led him away from the crowd, through a doorway marked Staff Only, into a dimly lit hallway lined with storage crates. Listen to me, she said, her voice low and fierce. Jason Kraft is a mediocre investor with an inflated ego who's been trying to undermine me since I started Meridian. He goes after anyone he thinks is close to me because he's too much of a coward to come after me directly. Whatever he said to you was designed to create distance between us. Don't let him. But what if he's right? What if I am just... You're not. Lila cut him off. You're not a novelty. You're not a transaction. You're... She stopped, something flickering across her face. Uncertainty. Vulnerability. You're the first person in years who's treated me like a human being instead of a business opportunity. That's not nothing. Noah searched her face, looking for the mask, the performance, but all he saw was someone who'd been carrying too much weight for too long. Okay, he said softly. I believe you. Leela nodded, composing herself. Good. Now, let's get back out there before people start gossiping about where we disappeared to. They returned to the gala, and Noah made it through the rest of the evening on autopilot. But Jason's words stayed with him, burrowing deep. By the time Lila dropped him off at his apartment just after midnight, Noah was exhausted in every possible way. Same time next week? Lila asked as he unbuckled his seatbelt. Yeah, same time. He climbed out, watched her drive away, and stood on the sidewalk for a long time, wondering what he was really doing. Inside, his mom was asleep on the couch, the TV playing softly. Noah covered her with a blanket, checked on Mia, who was sprawled across her bed like a starfish, and then collapsed into his own bed without bothering to change out of the tuxedo. Tomorrow, he'd go back to his real life. But tonight, he let himself exist in the space between worlds, not quite belonging to either one. And he still wasn't sure if that was freedom or just a different kind of trap. The weeks that followed the gala blurred into a rhythm Noah couldn't have predicted. Tuesday mornings meant dropping Mia at preschool before heading to whatever job site needed him. Wednesday evenings were for grocery shopping and meal prep. Thursdays through Saturdays became Lila's, investor dinners, private receptions, industry panels where Noah learned to nod at the right moments and ask questions that sounded intelligent without revealing how little he actually knew about venture capital. He was living two lives, and the seam between them was starting to show. Daddy, Why do you have to go out again? Mia asked one Thursday evening, watching him button a crisp white shirt in the bathroom mirror. Noah met her eyes in the reflection. I told you, sweetheart, it's for work. But you already went to work today. I saw you leave this morning with your lunchbox. She wasn't wrong. He'd spent 8 hours helping gut a kitchen in a townhouse across the river, breathing in drywall dust and hauling debris. His shoulders still ached, but Lila had texted at noon about a dinner with potential investors from Singapore, and the money was too good to turn down. Sometimes grown-ups have to work twice in one day, he said, crouching down to her level. But I'll be home before you wake up tomorrow, and we'll have pancakes. Deal? Mia considered this with the seriousness of a judge. Chocolate chip pancakes? Is there any other kind? She threw her arms around his neck, and Noah held her tight, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. When he finally let go, his mom was standing in the doorway, watching with an expression he couldn't quite read. You look tired, Linda said once Mia had wandered back to her toys. I am tired. Maybe you should slow down. You're burning the candle at both ends. Noah adjusted his tie, avoiding her gaze. We need the money, Mom. You need sleep more. And so does that little girl. She's starting to notice you're gone a lot. I'm doing this for her. I know you are. Just make sure you're still around to enjoy it with her when all this is over. Linda squeezed his shoulder. Be careful, sweetheart. That world you're stepping into, it's not kind to people like us. The words stayed with him during the drive to meet Lila, echoing in the quiet of the car. The restaurant was the kind of place where the menu didn't list prices and the sommelier spoke 3 languages. Noah had been to enough of these by now to recognize the pattern. Minimalist decor, soft lighting, tables spaced far enough apart that conversations stayed private. Lila was already seated when he arrived, flanked by 2 men in expensive suits who looked like they'd never done manual labor in their lives. Noah, Lila said, standing to greet him. This is David Tan and Marcus Wong from Crescent Capital. Gentlemen, Noah Hayes. The handshakes were firm, assessing. Noah had learned to hold eye contact during these moments to project confidence he didn't always feel. Lila's told us you're in construction, David said as they sat. Renovations, mostly. Residential and some commercial work. Interesting pivot, Marcus said, from building houses to attending investor dinners. I wouldn't call it a pivot, more like supplemental income. Noah accepted a menu from the waiter, not bothering to open it. He'd let Lila order. She always knew what was good. David leaned back in his chair, studying Noah with open curiosity. How did you two meet? Through mutual friends, Lila said smoothly. We discovered we both believe in building things that last, just in different mediums. It was the script they'd refined over weeks, vague enough to avoid scrutiny, but specific enough to sound believable. Noah had stopped feeling guilty about the lie. In this world, everyone performed some version of themselves. At least he was honest about the things that mattered. The dinner conversation drifted toward business, Crescent Capital's interest in Meridian's latest fund, market trends in Southeast Asia, regulatory challenges. Noah listened more than he spoke, picking up fragments of information that were starting to form a coherent picture. Lila wasn't just good at her job. She was exceptional. She saw patterns others missed, asked questions that exposed weaknesses and assumptions, never committed to anything without thinking 3 moves ahead. You're quiet tonight, Marcus observed, looking at Noah. What do you make of all this? Noah set down his fork. Honestly, most of it's over my head, but from what I understand, you're asking Lila to take on more risk than you're willing to take on yourselves. That seems like a bad deal. The table went silent. Lila's expression didn't change, but Noah caught the slight tension in her shoulders. David exchanged a glance with Marcus, then laughed. He's direct. I like that. He's right too, Lila said, which is why the terms would need to be renegotiated before I'd consider moving forward. The conversation shifted after that, becoming sharper, more focused. By the time dessert arrived, they'd outlined a framework that seemed to satisfy everyone. David and Marcus left shortly after, shaking hands and promising to follow up next week. Lila waited until they were gone before speaking. You didn't have to do that. Do what? Call them out. I had it handled. Noah shrugged. I know, but sometimes it helps to have someone else say what everyone's already thinking. Lila studied him for a long moment. You're getting better at this. At what? Faking my way through conversations about things I don't understand? At seeing through the performance. Most people in this world are so focused on how they're being perceived that they miss what's actually happening. You don't have that problem. Because I don't care how I'm perceived. I'm just trying not to embarrass you. You couldn't embarrass me if you tried. Lila's voice was quiet, almost vulnerable. You're the most honest person in any room we walk into. That's worth more than you realize. They sat in silence for a moment, the restaurant emptying around them. Noah wanted to say something, to acknowledge what she'd just admitted, but the words felt too big, too dangerous. I should get home, he said instead. Promised Mia pancakes in the morning. Lila nodded, signaling for the check. Same time Saturday, there's a tech conference, panel discussion followed by a networking reception. Yeah, I'll be there. Outside, the city hummed with late-night energy. Lila handed her ticket to the valet, and they waited in comfortable silence until her car appeared. Noah, she said as he turned to leave, thank you for tonight. Just doing my job. It's more than that now. You know it is. He did know. But acknowledging it felt like stepping off a cliff, so he just nodded and walked away. The next morning, Noah woke to Mia jumping on his bed, her hair a wild halo around her face. Pancakes! You promised! He groaned, checking his phone. 6:45. He'd gotten maybe 4 hours of sleep. I did promise. Give me 10 minutes to wake up. 5 minutes. 8. Deal. They made pancakes together, Mia standing on a step stool to help mix the batter, chocolate chips clutched in her fist like treasure. She told him about a boy at preschool who'd taken her favorite crayon, and how she'd told the teacher instead of hitting him, which she was very proud of. That's my girl, Noah said, flipping a pancake. Using your words. Miss Sandra says hitting is never okay, even when you're really mad. Miss Sandra's right. But sometimes I want to hit things when I'm mad. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. They ate breakfast at the small kitchen table, syrup dripping everywhere, and for a few perfect minutes, Noah's world felt simple again. Just him and Mia, pancakes and Saturday morning cartoons, nothing complicated or dangerous. Then his phone buzzed. A text from Lila. Change of plans for tomorrow. The conference added an evening gala. Black tie. Can you make it? Noah stared at the message, syrup sticky on his fingers. Another event meant another $2,000. It also meant another night away from Mia, another lie about where he was going, another step deeper into a world that wasn't his. He typed back, yeah, I'll make it work. Good. I'll send the details. Who was that? Mia asked, chocolate smeared across her cheek. Nobody important, sweetheart. Eat your pancakes. Saturday's conference was held at a massive convention center downtown, the kind of space designed to swallow thousands of people and still feel empty. Noah met Lila in the lobby, both of them dressed business casual for the daytime portion. She wore tailored pants and a silk blouse, her hair pulled back in a way that made her look older, more severe. The panel starts in 20 minutes, she said, handing him a badge. It's on emerging markets and tech investment strategies. Moderately boring, but necessary. After that, we have about 2 hours to network before we need to change for the gala. Change where? I booked a suite upstairs. Easier than going home. She started walking, expecting him to follow. Your tuxedo is already there. The panel was exactly as boring as advertised. 5 investors sitting on a stage, talking about market penetration and regulatory frameworks while a moderator asked softball questions. Lila was third from the left, the only woman on the panel, and Noah watched how the others interrupted her, talked over her, dismissed her points before circling back to them 5 minutes later, as if they'd thought of them first. She handled it with grace, never losing her composure, but Noah could see the effort it took. The slight tightness around her eyes, the way her jaw clenched when someone cut her off mid-sentence. When it was finally over, they mingled in the expo hall, navigating booths and demonstrations. People recognized Lila, approached her with pitches and proposals. Noah stayed close, playing the role he'd learned. Supportive, but not intrusive. Present, but not domineering. Lila Grant, I thought that was you. They turned to find a woman in her 40s, blonde hair cut sharp at her shoulders, wearing a power suit that probably cost more than Noah's car. Her smile was bright and cold at the same time. Victoria, Lila said, her voice carefully neutral. I didn't know you were attending. Last-minute decision. Helix Group is exploring some new partnerships. Victoria's eyes slid to Noah. And who's this? Noah Hayes. Noah, Victoria Brennan. She's Helix's head of acquisitions. Victoria extended her hand and Noah shook it. Her grip was firm, testing. Hayes? That name sounds familiar. I get that a lot. It's a common name. Victoria turned back to Lila. I heard about the incident with Claire at the tech summit. Quite the scene. Claire has a flair for drama, Lila said evenly. So it seems. Though I have to say, having someone defend you so publicly, Victoria glanced at Noah again, something calculating in her expression. It does make one wonder about the nature of your relationship. Wonder all you want, Noah said before Lila could respond. Doesn't change anything. Victoria's smile widened. Direct, I like that. Most people in Lila's orbit are too polished. It's refreshing to meet someone who still has edges. Noah's full of surprises, Lila said, taking his arm. If you'll excuse us, we have another meeting. They walked away quickly, not stopping until they were on the far side of the expo hall. That was Victoria Brennan, Lila said quietly. She works closely with Claire. Whatever you said to her will get back to Claire by tonight. Good. Maybe she'll finally get the message. Or maybe she'll escalate. Victoria's dangerous, Noah. She collects information and uses it strategically. If she thinks there's something to exploit about us, she will. Let her try. Noah's voice was harder than he intended. I'm not afraid of these people. Lila stopped walking, turning to face him. Maybe you should be. They don't play fair and they have resources you can't imagine. So what do you want me to do? Apologize? Bow and scrape? That's not who I am. I know it's not. That's exactly why She cut herself off, frustration flashing across her face. Just be careful. Please. The gala that evening was held in the convention center's ballroom, transformed with dramatic lighting and elegant decor. Noah had changed in Lila's suite, the tuxedo fitting perfectly as always, and now stood beside her as they made their entrance. The room was packed with people he recognized from news articles and business magazines. Celebrities from the tech world, venture capitalists whose names carried weight, entrepreneurs who'd built empires from nothing, and Noah Hayes, who fixed broken sinks and patched drywall for a living. You're doing it again, Lila murmured. Doing what? Retreating inside your head. Stay with me. He forced himself to focus, to engage with the people Lila introduced him to. A founder who'd just taken his company public. An investor from Tokyo who spoke perfect English but preferred to conduct business in Japanese. A journalist from a major tech publication who asked probing questions that Noah deflected with practiced ease. Halfway through the evening, Noah excused himself to find the restroom. The hallway outside the ballroom was quieter, the noise of the party muffled. He was washing his hands when the door opened and Jason Kraft walked in. They made eye contact in the mirror. Jason's expression was unreadable. Hayes. Kraft. For a moment, Noah thought that would be it. A tense acknowledgement, nothing more. But Jason didn't leave. Instead, he leaned against the counter, arms crossed. You're in over your head, Jason said. I told you that before, and it's still true. Noah dried his hands, not bothering to respond. I'm not trying to be your enemy, Jason continued. I'm trying to give you a reality check. Lila's using you. Maybe she doesn't see it that way. Maybe she's even convinced herself this is something real. But it's not. You're a prop in her performance. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Think about it. She pays you to show up, to stand next to her, to make her look good. How is that different from hiring an actor? Because I'm not acting, Noah shot back. Everything I've said, everything I've done, it's real. Maybe that's a concept you don't understand. Jason pushed off the counter, stepping closer. You think you're special because you're honest? Because you don't play the game? Let me tell you something, Hayes. Honesty is a luxury in this world, and luxuries get expensive fast. Is that a threat? It's a warning. From someone who's watched people like you get chewed up and spit out. Jason moved toward the door, then paused. When this all falls apart, and it will, don't say I didn't try to help you. He left, and Noah stood alone in the bathroom, his reflection staring back at him. Tired eyes, tension in his jaw. He looked like someone fighting a battle he wasn't sure he could win. When he returned to the ballroom, Lila was in conversation with a group near the bar. She caught his eye, smiled briefly, then turned back to her discussion. Noah hung back, watching her work, wondering if Jason was right. Was he just a prop? A performance? The thought sat heavy in his chest for the rest of the evening. They left just after 11, both exhausted. Lila drove in silence, the city lights streaking past. Noah stared out the window, lost in his own thoughts. "You're quiet," Lila said finally. "Just tired." "It's more than that. What happened?" Noah considered lying, then decided against it. "Ran into Jason again, in the bathroom." Lila's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What did he say?" "That I'm in over my head, that you're using me, that this whole thing is going to blow up in my face." "And you believe him?" "I don't know what I believe anymore." Noah turned to look at her. "Are you using me, Lila?" She was quiet for so long that Noah thought she wouldn't answer. Then she pulled over to the side of the road, put the car in park, and turned to face him. "When this started, yes. I needed someone beside me, and you fit the profile. That's the truth. But it's not the truth anymore." Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed something deeper. "You're not a prop to me, Noah. You're not a performance. You're the only person in my life who doesn't want something from me. Do you have any idea how rare that is? Then why does it feel like I'm always one step behind, like I'm trying to keep up with a world that doesn't want me in it? Because you are. And I hate that I've put you in that position." Lila looked away, staring through the windshield. Maybe Jason's right. Maybe this was selfish of me, dragging you into something you never asked for. "I said yes," Noah reminded her. "Nobody forced me. You said yes because you needed the money. That's not the same as choosing, isn't it?" Noah leaned back in his seat, rubbing his eyes. "Look, I'm tired, I'm confused, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing half the time. But I'm here because I want to be, not just for the money anymore. For you." The words hung in the air between them, too honest to take back. Lila's expression softened. "Noah, don't. Just don't make this more complicated than it already is." He reached for the door handle. "I should go. Mia's probably waiting up." "It's almost midnight. She's definitely asleep." "My mom, then." Lila put the car back in drive, pulling back onto the road. They didn't speak for the rest of the journey. When she stopped outside his building, Noah climbed out, then leaned back through the window. "For what it's worth," he said, "I don't think you're using me. I think you're scared, and that's okay. But don't push me away because Jason Kraft got in your head." He walked away before she could respond, feeling her eyes on his back until he disappeared into the building. Upstairs, his mom was asleep on the couch again. Noah covered her with a blanket, checked on Mia, who was indeed asleep, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight, and then stood in the doorway of his daughter's room, watching her breathe. This was real. This mattered. Everything else was noise. But even as he thought it, he knew it wasn't quite true. Because somewhere between the fancy dinners and the complicated conversations, between the performances and the quiet moments of honesty, Lila had become real too. And that was the problem. Noah spent Sunday trying to be present. He took Mia to the park, pushed her on the swings until his arms ached, helped her build an elaborate sandcastle that another kid immediately destroyed. She cried. He comforted her. They rebuilt it together. Simple, uncomplicated. But his phone kept buzzing. Texts from Lila, updates about next week's schedule, a link to an article about venture capital trends she thought he'd find interesting. He responded when Mia wasn't looking, guilt twisting in his stomach every time. That evening, after Mia was in bed, Linda sat him down at the kitchen table. "We need to talk," she said. Noah's stomach dropped. "About what?" "About the fact that you're lying to your daughter." "I'm not." "You told her you were working. You were at a party. That's a lie, Noah." "It is work. I'm getting paid." "You know what I mean." Linda's voice was firm but not unkind. "She's 4 years old. She doesn't understand nuance. All she knows is that Daddy keeps leaving and coming back tired, and the reasons keep changing." Noah rubbed his face with both hands. "What do you want me to do? Turn down the money?" "We need it, Mom." "I know you do, but you also need to be honest with yourself about what you're doing and why." Linda reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. "This isn't just about money anymore, is it?" Noah met her eyes and found he couldn't lie to her. "No, it's not." You care about this woman. Yeah, I do. Does she care about you? I think so, but it's complicated.
It always is. Linda squeezed his hand. Just promise me you'll be careful. Not just with your heart, but with Mia's. She needs you present, not distracted, and she needs to know she can trust what you tell her. I promise. But even as he said it, Noah wasn't sure he could keep it. Monday morning brought a phone call from Marcus at the catering company. Noah, hey. Listen, I've got a situation. Big corporate event tomorrow night. One of my servers just bailed. Can you fill in?
Noah almost said no automatically. He had a renovation job scheduled for Tuesday, and Lila hadn't mentioned any events this week, but the catering gig was quick money and he could use it. Yeah, I can do it. What's the client? Some tech investment firm, Meridian Ventures, I think. Ring any bells? Noah's blood ran cold. Meridian? Yeah, why, you know them? No, just heard the name before. Noah's mind raced. What kind of event? Private dinner for their investors. Fancy stuff. 20 guests, 5-course meal. You'd be serving. Serving. At Lila's company. At an event she almost certainly knew about, but hadn't mentioned to him. I'll do it, Noah said. Send me the details. He hung up and stared at his phone, a dozen questions burning through his mind. Why hadn't Lila told him about this dinner? Why hadn't she invited him as her guest instead of having him work it? Unless she didn't want him there at all. The thought settled like lead in his stomach. Maybe Jason had been right. Maybe this whole thing was just an arrangement, and Noah had been stupid enough to think it meant more. He texted Lila. You have an investor dinner tomorrow night? Her response came quickly. Yes, just internal stakeholders. Why? Just curious. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. It's not the kind of event I'd bring a guest to. Very business-focused. Noah stared at the message, reading between the lines. Not the kind of event she'd bring him to, because he didn't belong in that part of her world. He was for show, for the parties and galas where appearances mattered, not for the real work. He didn't respond. Tuesday evening, Noah showed up at Meridian Ventures' office building dressed in the standard catering uniform, black pants, white shirt, black vest. The event was being held in a private dining room on the top floor, all glass walls and stunning views of the city. Marcus briefed the team quickly. Service is everything tonight. These people are high profile. No mistakes, no spills, no unnecessary conversation. Got it? Everyone nodded. Noah kept his head down, hoping he could get through the evening without Lila noticing him. No such luck. She walked into the dining room 30 minutes before guests were scheduled to arrive, reviewing seating arrangements with her assistant. She wore a charcoal suit, her hair down, and looked every inch the powerful executive she was. Professional, untouchable. Then she saw him. Noah watched the shock register on her face, followed quickly by confusion and something that might have been anger. She excused herself from her assistant and walked straight to him. What are you doing here? She asked quietly, steering him toward a corner away from the other servers. Working? The catering company called. I said yes. You should have told me. Why? It's just a job. Noah kept his voice neutral. Not the kind of event you'd bring a guest to, right? Lila's jaw tightened. Noah, it's fine. I'm here to work. You're here to do business. Let's just get through the evening. We need to talk about this. Not now. Your guests are about to arrive. He walked away before she could argue, rejoining the other servers in the kitchen. His hands were shaking, but he forced them steady. He was good at compartmentalizing. He'd done it when his wife died, when the medical bills piled up, when Mia asked where Mommy was, and he had to explain death to a toddler. He could do it now. The dinner began. Noah served courses with mechanical precision, refilling wine glasses, clearing plates, staying invisible. He recognized some of the guests from previous events. Richard Castellan, a few other investors whose names he'd learned. They didn't recognize him. Why would they? He was just the help. Lila sat at the head of the table, commanding the conversation with the same brilliance he'd come to expect. She talked about portfolio performance, exit strategies, market opportunities. She was in her element, powerful and precise. And Noah was serving her wine. The irony wasn't lost on him. Halfway through the main course, one of the investors, a man named Thomas something, snapped his fingers at Noah. You, more water. Noah refilled his glass without comment. And bring out the next course. We're ready. Yes, sir. In the kitchen, Marcus pulled Noah aside. You okay? You seem off. I'm fine. You sure? Because if you need to tap out, I said I'm fine. Noah grabbed the next set of plates. Let's just get this done. Dessert was served. Coffee was poured. The investors lingered over port and conversation, and Noah stayed in the background, waiting for it to be over. Finally, just after 10, the guests began to leave. Noah helped clean up, packing dishes into crates, wiping down tables. Lila had disappeared into her office, and Noah was grateful. He didn't want to face her, didn't want to have the conversation that was clearly coming, but as he was leaving, she caught him in the hallway. Noah, wait. He stopped but didn't turn around. I'm tired, Lila. Can this wait?
No, it can't. She moved to stand in front of him, blocking his path. Why didn't you tell me you'd be working this event? Why didn't you tell me about it in the first place? Because it wasn't relevant to you. This was a working dinner with my investors, not a social event. Right, because I don't belong in that part of your world. Noah finally met her eyes. I get it now. I'm good enough for the parties, for the appearances, but when it comes to the actual business, that's not fair. Isn't it? You keep me in a box, Lila. Show up here, wear this, say these things. But tonight I saw where I actually stand. And it's not beside you, it's behind you, refilling water glasses. Lila's expression cracked, pain flashing across her face. You think I wanted you to see me like that? Running a business dinner, being that version of myself? Why not? It's who you are. It's who I have to be. There's a difference. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. I keep those parts of my life separate because they have to be separate. The moment I start mixing business with personal, the moment I let my guard down in front of investors, I lose credibility. You don't understand how hard I've had to fight to be taken seriously in this industry. You're right, I don't understand, because I've never had the luxury of separating who I am from what I do. I'm just me, all the time. No performances, no compartments. Noah's voice was rough. But maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm too real for your world. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. He moved to step around her, but she caught his arm. Noah, please, don't leave like this. I have to pick up Mia from my mom's. I'm already late.
Then tomorrow, come to my office. Let's talk this through properly. Noah pulled his arm free gently. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because I'm starting to realize that Jason was right. I'm in over my head and I can't keep pretending otherwise. He looked at her one last time, memorizing her face. I think we should take a break. From all of this. Noah! But he was already walking away, and this time she didn't follow. Outside, the night air was cold and sharp. Noah sat in his car for a long time before starting the engine, trying to make sense of what he felt. Anger, hurt, confusion. And underneath it all, a deep sadness he couldn't quite name. He'd known from the beginning this wasn't his world. He'd known it couldn't last. But knowing something and feeling it were different things entirely. His phone buzzed, a text from Lila. I'm sorry. For all of it. Can we please talk? Noah typed and deleted 3 different responses before finally settling on, not tonight. I need some space. He drove home through empty streets, the city lights blurring past, and wondered if he'd just walked away from the best thing that had happened to him in years, or if he'd finally woken up from a dream that was never meant to be real. Noah didn't answer Lila's texts for 3 days. He went to work, came home, played with Mia, and tried to pretend everything was normal. But his phone buzzed constantly with messages he couldn't bring himself to open. Please talk to me. I know I handled this badly. You're right about everything. Can we at least discuss it? On the 4th day, she stopped texting. The silence was somehow worse. He threw himself into the renovation job, working longer hours than necessary. Stripping wallpaper, ripping out old cabinets, demolishing a bathroom down to the studs. Physical work that required all his focus and left him too exhausted to think. His crew noticed the change in pace but didn't comment. Noah had always been the steady one, the guy who showed up on time and got the job done without drama. They didn't know what to do with this version of him. You trying to finish this whole job in a week? Danny, his work partner, asked on Friday afternoon. Because you're making the rest of us look bad. Noah wiped sweat from his forehead, surveying the gutted kitchen. Just want to get it done. Yeah, well, pace yourself. We've got another month on this contract. Danny cracked open a water bottle. You okay, man? You seem off. I'm fine. That's what people say when they're not fine. Noah didn't respond, just grabbed a sledgehammer and went back to work. The satisfying crack of tile breaking under the hammer drowned out everything else. That evening, after he'd picked up Mia and gotten her fed and bathed, his doorbell rang. Noah opened it to find Martin Reeves standing in the hallway, holding a bottle of wine. Martin, how did you know where I live? Lila gave me your address. May I come in? Noah hesitated, then stepped aside. Martin entered, glancing around the small apartment with the same lack of judgment Lila had shown. Nice place. Cozy. It's small. Small isn't bad. My first apartment was half this size. Martin set the wine on the counter. Is your daughter here? She's in her room, playing before bedtime. Good. This conversation is better had without little ears listening. Martin pulled out a chair at the kitchen table and sat without being invited. Lila didn't send me before you ask. She doesn't know I'm here, but I've known that girl since she was 20 years old, and I've never seen her like this. Noah leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Like what? Lost. Confused. Second-guessing herself. Martin studied Noah carefully. She won't tell me what happened between you two, but I can make educated guesses. And I'm here to tell you that whatever you think you know about her, you're probably only seeing half the picture. Then maybe she should show me the rest. Maybe she doesn't know how. Martin folded his hands on the table. Do you know why Lila is the way she is? Why she keeps everything so carefully controlled? Noah shook his head. Her father built a tech company in the 90s. Made millions. Lila grew up watching him work 18-hour days, watching him sacrifice everything for success. And then, when she was 16, it all collapsed. Bad investments, poor decisions, partners who screwed him over. He lost everything, the company, the house, the money, all of it. Noah felt something shift in his chest. Lila never mentioned that. She doesn't talk about it. Her father had a heart attack 6 months after the bankruptcy, died at 52. And Lila's mother looked at her daughter and said, "Don't ever let anyone have that kind of power over you." Martin's voice was gentle. So Lila built walls. She learned to control every variable, to never depend on anyone, to keep business and personal completely separate because mixing them destroyed her father. I didn't know. How could you? She doesn't let people close enough to tell them. Martin leaned back. But then you showed up. Someone who doesn't want anything from her except honesty. Someone who sees her as a person, not an opportunity. That terrifies her, Noah. Because the moment she lets you in completely, she's vulnerable. And vulnerability is what killed her father. Noah rubbed his face, the weight of it settling over him. So what am I supposed to do with that? Whatever you want. I'm not here to tell you to go back to her or to forgive her. I'm just here to give you context. Martin stood. But I will say this. Lila Grant is one of the best people I know. Brilliant, ethical, genuinely trying to do good in an industry full of sharks. She's also deeply damaged and doesn't know how to love without fear. If you care about her, that's something you'll have to decide if you can handle. After Martin left, Noah sat at the kitchen table for a long time, his daughter's laughter drifting from the bedroom where she was singing to her stuffed animals. He thought about walls and fear, about vulnerability and control, about his own walls, the ones he'd built after his wife died. He pulled out his phone and stared at Lila's last message. Then he typed a response. Can you meet tomorrow? Just to talk. Her reply came within seconds. Yes. Where? The park on 5th, the one with the duck pond. 10 a.m. I'll be there. Noah arrived early, sitting on the same bench where he'd watched Mia feed the ducks weeks ago. The morning was cool, the sky overcast, and the park was mostly empty except for a few joggers and dog walkers. Lila appeared at exactly 10, wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked younger like this, less polished, more uncertain. Hi, she said softly. Hi. She sat on the far end of the bench, maintaining distance. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Noah watched a duck paddle across the pond. Martin came to see me. He what? Lila's head snapped toward him. I didn't ask him to. I know. He made that clear. Noah turned to look at her. He told me about your father. Lila's expression closed off immediately. He had no right. Maybe not, but I'm glad he did, because now I understand why you keep everything in boxes, why you separate business from personal like your life depends on it. It does depend on it. Lila's voice was sharp. You think I'm being dramatic, but I watched my father lose everything because he trusted the wrong people, because he let his emotions cloud his judgment. I swore I'd never make the same mistake. And you think letting me into your business life would be a mistake? I think mixing personal feelings with professional relationships is dangerous. I've seen it destroy people. Noah leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I'm not trying to destroy you, Lila. I'm just trying to understand where I fit. Because right now it feels like you want me around, but only in specific situations, under specific conditions. And I don't know how to be that person. I don't want you to be anyone but yourself. That's the whole point. Lila's voice cracked slightly. But I also can't. I can't just throw open every door and let you see all the messy, complicated parts. What if you decide it's too much? What if you walk away? What if I don't? She met his eyes, and Noah saw real fear there. That might be even scarier. They sat in silence for a moment, watching the ducks, the water, the morning light filtering through the trees. I owe you an apology, Lila said finally, for the investor dinner. You were right. I should have told you about it. I should have explained why I wasn't inviting you. Instead, I compartmentalized and assumed you'd understand, and that wasn't fair. Why didn't you want me there? Because those investors have known me for years. They've watched me build Meridian from nothing, and if I showed up with someone I clearly cared about, they'd see it as a weakness. They'd wonder if I was getting soft, if my focus was slipping, and I couldn't risk that. She looked at him. I know how that sounds, but it's the reality of my world. Then maybe your world is broken. Maybe it is. But it's the world I have to operate in if I want to survive. Lila paused. When you showed up as part of the catering staff, I panicked, because suddenly you were seeing the version of me that I worked so hard to keep separate, the one who has to be ruthless and calculating and always in control, and I hated that you saw me like that. That's who you are, though. At least part of who you are. I know, and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm just... She struggled for words. I'm afraid that if you see too much of that side, you won't like what you find. Noah turned to face her fully. You want to know what I saw that night? I saw you commanding a room full of powerful people. I saw you being brilliant and strategic and completely in your element. And yeah, it was intimidating, but it wasn't ugly, it was just different. You're not angry anymore? I'm still hurt and confused, but I'm not angry. He reached out, hesitating, then took her hand. I just need to know what this is, what we are. Because I can't keep existing in this in-between space where I'm important to you, but only on your terms. Lila's fingers tightened around his. I don't know what we are. I don't have a box for this, and that terrifies me. Maybe we don't need a box. I don't know how to do that. Neither do I. Noah managed a small smile. So maybe we figure it out together. She looked at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Then she moved closer, closing the distance between them on the bench. I'm going to mess this up, she said quietly. I'm going to retreat into my walls and make decisions without consulting you, and prioritize work over everything else because that's what I know how to do. Probably, and I'm going to feel out of place and say the wrong thing and not understand half of what you're talking about. But we can work on it. How can you be so sure? I'm not, but I'm willing to try if you are. Lila leaned her head against his shoulder, and Noah felt the tension slowly drain from both of them. They sat like that for a while, watching the ducks, saying nothing because nothing needed to be said. Eventually, Lila's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and sighed. I have a meeting in an hour. On Saturday? Tech industry doesn't believe in weekends. She stood, reluctantly letting go of his hand. But I want to see you again, soon. Not for an event, just us. I'd like that. Monday evening, I could come to your place. We could order takeout, watch something mindless on TV. Noah raised an eyebrow. You watch TV? I used to, before I forgot how to relax. She smiled, and it reached her eyes this time. Maybe you can remind me. Monday works, but fair warning, Mia will probably want to show you every toy she owns. I'd be disappointed if she didn't. Lila left, and Noah sat on the bench a little longer, feeling like something had shifted. Not fixed. Nothing was fixed. But maybe moving in the right direction. Monday evening arrived with the kind of chaos that came standard with a 4-year-old. Mia had been excited all day about Daddy's friend coming to visit, which had resulted in her pulling out every single toy and arranging them in elaborate displays across the living room. "Mia, sweetheart, we need to clean some of this up," Noah said, surveying the disaster zone. "But I want to show her my princess castle, and my dinosaurs, and my art supplies, and my bus. How about you pick your 3 favorites?" Mia's face scrunched up in concentration. "That's too hard." The doorbell rang before Noah could negotiate further. Mia shrieked with excitement and ran to the door. Noah caught her before she could open it. "What do we do first?" he prompted. "Ask who it is," Mia said dutifully. "Good girl." Noah opened the door to find Lila standing there in jeans and a simple blouse, holding a bag of Chinese takeout in one hand and a wrapped package in the other. She looked nervous. "Hi," she said. "Hi." Noah stepped aside. "Come in. Warning, the place is a mess." "You must be Mia," Lila said, crouching down to the little girl's level. "Your dad's told me a lot about you." Mia studied her with serious eyes. "Are you Daddy's girlfriend?" "Mia," Noah said quickly, but Lila just smiled. "I'm your dad's friend. Is that okay?" Mia considered this. "Do you like dinosaurs?" "I do, actually, especially velociraptors. Those are the smart ones." Mia grabbed Lila's free hand. "Come see my collection." She dragged Lila into the living room, and Noah followed, watching as his daughter proceeded to give a very detailed tour of her toy collection. Lila listened with genuine interest, asking questions and making appropriate impressed noises. "This is Rexy. He's the king, and this is Stella. She's a pterodactyl, but Daddy says that's not technically a dinosaur, but I still count her." Mia held up each plastic figure. "Do you have any dinosaurs?" "Not anymore, but I used to when I was your age." "What happened to them?" "I grew up and forgot about them," which was silly of me. Mia nodded sagely. "Grown-ups forget important stuff sometimes." "We really do," Lila agreed, glancing at Noah with something warm in her expression. They ate dinner at the small kitchen table, Mia chattering nonstop about preschool, her friends, the caterpillar she'd found in the backyard. Lila engaged fully, asking follow-up questions, laughing at Mia's jokes. Noah watched them interact and felt something loosen in his chest. After dinner, Lila presented the wrapped package. "This is for you, Mia, if it's okay with your dad." "What is it?" Mia's eyes went wide. "Open it and see." Mia tore into the wrapping paper with enthusiastic abandon, revealing a book about paleontology with beautiful illustrations and age-appropriate text. "Dinosaurs! I thought you might like it," Lila said. "It has facts and pictures. Your dad can read it to you at bedtime." "Can we read it now?" Noah checked the clock. "It's almost bedtime anyway. How about we read 1 chapter, then you brush your teeth?" They settled on the couch, Mia wedged between Noah and Lila, the book open on Noah's lap. He read about the Mesozoic era and continental drift while Mia pointed at pictures and asked questions that neither adult could fully answer. When the chapter ended, Mia yawned hugely. "Okay, kiddo, teeth, pajamas, bed." "But I want to talk to Miss Lila more." "You'll see her again," Noah promised, hoping it was true. Mia turned to Lila. "Will you come back?" "If your dad invites me, yes." "He will. He smiles more when you're here." And with that devastating observation, Mia scrambled off the couch and ran to the bathroom. Noah stood, embarrassed. "Sorry, she has no filter." "Don't apologize, she's wonderful." Lila's voice was soft. "You're doing an amazing job with her." "I'm doing my best. Some days that doesn't feel like enough." "It's more than enough. She's happy, she's smart, she knows she's loved. That's everything." They stood in awkward silence for a moment, the sounds of Mia brushing her teeth drifting from the bathroom. "I should tuck her in," Noah said. "Make yourself comfortable. There's beer in the fridge if you want one." He got Mia settled in bed, read one more chapter of the dinosaur book despite his earlier promise, and kissed her forehead. "Sleep tight, sweetheart." "Daddy, do you like Miss Lila?" "Yeah, I do." "Good. She's nice. And she knows about velociraptors." Mia yawned again. "You should marry her." Noah choked on a laugh. "It doesn't work like that, Mia." "Why not?" "Because it just doesn't. Now go to sleep. When he returned to the living room, Lila was sitting on the couch with a beer, studying the drawings Mia had taped to the walls. "She's very talented," Lila said, gesturing to a particularly abstract piece featuring purple cats and green suns. "She's 4. I'm pretty sure that's just scribbles. It's expression. That's art." Lila took a sip of beer. "She asked if you should marry me, didn't she?" Noah dropped onto the couch beside her. "How did you know?" "Because she asked me the same question while you were in the bathroom, very directly. Are you going to marry my daddy?" "What did you say?" I said that's a question for grown-ups to figure out over a long time. She seemed satisfied with that answer. Lila set down the beer, turning to face him. "This is your real life. This apartment, your daughter, the routine. I'm seeing it now." "Yeah. It's nice. It's real." She paused. "I don't have anything like this. My apartment is sleek and empty, and I barely spend time there. I work, I attend events, I make deals. That's my life. You could have more if you wanted it." "I don't know if I know how." Lila looked around the small space. "This feels foreign to me. Comfortable chaos, a child's laughter, takeout containers on the counter. It's like visiting another planet." "Is that bad?" "No, it's just different. And it makes me realize how much I've sacrificed for success." She met his eyes. "I'm 28 years old and I've built a fortune, but I eat alone most nights. I have business contacts, but very few friends. And I can't remember the last time I just existed, without a goal or a strategy or a performance." Noah took her hand. "You're existing right now." "I am, aren't I?" She smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. "It's harder than you'd think." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the TV playing something neither of them was really watching. Eventually, Lila leaned against Noah's shoulder, and he put his arm around her. "I have to go to New York next week," she said. "Big investor conference. 3 days. I was going to ask if you'd come with me." Noah's stomach tightened. "As your guest or as hired help?" "As my guest? My equal. Someone I want beside me." She pulled back to look at him. "I know I've messed up the boundaries before. I'm trying to do better. 3 days is a long time to be away from Mia." "I know. And if you can't, I understand, but I wanted to ask." Noah thought about it. 3 days in New York meant 3 days of high-pressure events, of being scrutinized, of existing in a world that still didn't feel like his. But it also meant 3 days with Lila, watching her work, understanding more of who she was. "Let me talk to my mom. See if she can handle Mia for that long." "Really?" "Yeah, but I need you to promise me something." "What?" "No more surprises. No events I don't know about. No showing up places without telling me. If I'm doing this with you, I need transparency." Lila nodded. "I promise. Complete transparency from now on." "Okay then. New York." She kissed him then, soft and tentative, and Noah kissed her back, feeling the last of his resistance crumble. This was messy and complicated and probably a terrible idea, but it was also real, and that counted for something. The week leading up to the New York trip passed in a blur. Noah worked long days on the renovation, trying to get ahead so he could take the time off. His mom agreed to stay with Mia, though she gave Noah a long look that said she had opinions about all of this. "Just be careful," she said. "And don't forget who you are because of who she is." "I won't." "I mean it, Noah. You're a good man. Don't let that world turn you into something else." The words stayed with him as he packed a bag Thursday evening, trying to figure out what to bring. Lila had sent over another tailored suit, along with detailed itinerary notes. Friday was a daytime conference followed by an evening gala. Saturday included panels and networking sessions. Sunday was a private brunch with investors before their flight home. Noah's phone rang as he was folding shirts. An unknown number. "Hello? Noah Hayes?" The voice was female, professional. "Yeah, who's this?" "My name is Rebecca Torres. I'm a journalist with TechWatch. I'm doing a profile on Lila Grant, and I was hoping to ask you a few questions." Noah's stomach dropped. "How did you get this number?" "That's not important. What is important is that you've been seen with Ms. Grant at several high-profile events over the past 2 months. Sources say you two are in a relationship, but neither of you have confirmed anything publicly. I'm trying to understand who you are and what role you play in her life." "I'm not interested in being part of your story." Mr. Hayes, with all due respect, you're already part of the story. Your presence at these events has been noticed. People are asking questions. I'm just trying to get accurate information rather than speculation. Then here's your accurate information. No comment. Noah hung up. His phone immediately rang again. Same number. He declined the call and blocked it, but the damage was done. Someone was digging into his background, trying to make a story out of his relationship with Lila. And if one journalist had his number, others would too. He texted Lila. A reporter just called me. Rebecca Torres from TechWatch, asking about us. Her response came quickly. Don't talk to her. She's looking for scandal. I'll handle it. How? I have a PR team. This is what they do. Noah stared at his phone, unease settling in his gut. This was the part of Lila's world he'd known existed, but hadn't really confronted. The media attention, the scrutiny, the way every relationship became fodder for speculation and gossip. He called her. Hey, Lila answered. I know you're probably freaking out, but this is manageable. Is it? Because I've never had journalists calling me before. I know, and I'm sorry. I should have warned you this might happen. As my profile gets higher, people get more interested in my personal life. It's invasive, but it's part of the territory. What are they going to find if they dig into me? What do you mean? I mean, I'm not interesting. I'm a contractor with a kid and a dead wife and a history of financial problems. What if they make it sound sordid? What if they paint me as some gold digger who latched onto you for money? Lila was quiet for a moment. Is that what you're worried about? How they'll portray you? Yes. No, I don't know. Noah sat on the edge of his bed, rubbing his eyes. I just don't want to become a story. I don't want Mia to see articles about her dad online. I don't want my mom to have to defend me to her friends. Then we control the narrative. My PR team will draft a simple statement saying we're friends, we enjoy each other's company, and we'd appreciate privacy. Nothing dramatic, nothing that feeds speculation. And that'll work? It'll help. Look, I can't promise the media will leave you alone completely, but I can promise that I'll do everything in my power to protect you and Mia from the worst of it. Noah wanted to believe her, but he also knew that once something was out in the world, you couldn't control it. You could only manage the fallout. I'll see you tomorrow at the airport, he said finally. Noah, I'm not backing out. I'm just processing. Okay? Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be intense. After they hung up, Noah sat in the quiet of his bedroom, listening to Mia's soft breathing from the next room. His daughter, innocent and trusting, had no idea that her father was about to step into something that could expose their entire life to public scrutiny. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe he should pull back now, before things got more complicated. But then he thought about Lila's smile when Mia showed her the dinosaur collection. The way she'd looked at him in the park, vulnerable and afraid, but willing to try. The way she made him feel like maybe he was more than just a guy struggling to get by. He wasn't ready to walk away. Not yet. The flight to New York was Noah's first time in first class. Lila had booked them seats together, and Noah tried not to gawk at the extra legroom, the attentive service, the general absurdity of paying more for a seat than he usually spent on groceries in a month. You okay? Lila asked, amused. This is insane. There's a warm towel. Why is there a warm towel? To refresh yourself before takeoff. I could have refreshed myself in the bathroom for free. She laughed, and Noah realized it was the first time he'd heard her laugh without reservation. No performance, no audience, just genuine amusement. The conference hotel was in Midtown, all glass and steel and luxury. Their rooms were on the same floor but separate. Lila had insisted on that, saying it was important to maintain some boundaries. Noah suspected it was more about her need for control than actual propriety, but he didn't argue. The evening gala was in the hotel's grand ballroom, and Noah recognized the pattern immediately. Same expensive clothes, same careful conversations, same performance. But this time, people were watching him more closely. He could feel their eyes, the speculative glances, the whispered conversations that stopped when he got too close. They're talking about us, he murmured to Lila. Let them talk. As long as we don't give them anything real to gossip about, it's just noise. But it didn't feel like noise. It felt like being dissected under a microscope. Halfway through the evening, Noah excused himself to get some air. He found a quiet balcony overlooking the city, the lights of Manhattan spreading out in every direction. Quite a view. Noah turned to find a woman in her 30s, red hair, sharp features, holding a glass of wine. She looked vaguely familiar. Yeah, it's something. Claire Devereaux, she said, extending her hand. We've met before. Sort of. Noah's guard went up immediately. I remember. Good memory. Most people forget faces in this world. Claire leaned against the railing. You're the talk of the conference, you know. Noah Hayes, the mysterious man who's captured Lila Grant's attention. People are fascinated. People should get hobbies. She laughed. Fair point. But you have to understand, Lila's never brought anyone to these things before. She's famously private about her personal life. So when she shows up with someone, especially someone who's not from our world, people notice. What do you want, Claire? Just to give you some friendly advice, from someone who's been in this industry longer than Lila has. I doubt anything you have to say is friendly. You're smarter than you look. Good. Claire took a sip of wine. Here's the thing, Noah. Lila is brilliant, but she's also ruthless. She has to be. And that ruthlessness extends to her personal life, whether she admits it or not. Right now, you're useful to her. You make her look more approachable, more human. But the second that changes, I've heard this speech before, from Jason Kraft. Then maybe you should listen. Multiple people trying to warn you should tell you something. Claire set down her glass. I'm not saying she doesn't care about you. I'm saying that in her world, caring isn't enough. Business always comes first. And when you inevitably become a liability instead of an asset, she'll cut you loose. That's not cruelty. It's survival. Noah met her eyes. You really believe that? I've watched it happen. To partners, to employees, to anyone who got too close and threatened her control. Claire's expression was almost sympathetic. You seem like a decent guy. You have a kid, a real life outside all this. Don't sacrifice that for someone who'll never put you first. She walked away, leaving Noah alone on the balcony with her words echoing in his head. When he returned to the ballroom, Lila was in conversation with a group of investors. She caught his eye and smiled, excusing herself to join him. Where did you disappear to? Just needed air. Ran into Claire. Lila's expression hardened. What did she say? The same thing everyone says, that you're going to drop me when I stop being useful. And you believe her? I don't know what I believe anymore. Noah looked around the ballroom at all the people performing their roles. This whole world runs on transactions, everyone using everyone else. How am I supposed to know if what we have is real or just another deal? Lila grabbed his hand, pulling him toward a quiet corner. Look at me. What we have is real. It's messy and complicated, and I'm terrible at it, but it's real. I don't have a script for this. I don't have a strategy. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go. But if it came down to choosing between me and your career, that's not a fair question. Why not? Because you already know the answer? Lila's eyes flashed. Because you're asking me to prove something I can't prove with words. I can only show you over time. And if you're not willing to give me that time, then maybe Claire's right, and this is doomed anyway. They stood facing each other, tension crackling between them. Around them, the gala continued, oblivious. I'm not trying to fight, Noah said finally. I'm just scared of getting in too deep and losing myself. I'm scared too, of the exact same thing. Lila's voice softened. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe and alone. Noah pulled her close, and she let him, her head resting against his chest. They stayed like that for a long moment, two people trying to find solid ground in a world built on shifting sand. The rest of the conference passed in a blur of panels and networking sessions. Noah played his role standing beside Lila, engaging when necessary, fading into the background when appropriate. But Claire's words haunted him, whispering doubts he couldn't quite silence. On their last night, Lila suggested room service instead of attending another dinner. I'm exhausted, she admitted, and I want time with you that doesn't involve performing for an audience. They ate burgers and fries in her suite, sprawled on the couch in comfortable clothes, watching a movie neither of them paid attention to. Can I ask you something? Noah said during a quiet moment. Always. If Meridian started failing, if you had to choose between saving the company and maintaining our relationship, what would you do? Lila was silent for a long time. I don't know, and I hate that I don't know. At least you're honest. Would you rather I lie? Tell you I'd choose you no matter what? No. I'd rather you tell me the truth. Noah turned to look at her. even if the truth is that I'll always come second to your work. It's not that simple. Meridian isn't just my work. It's my identity, my security, my purpose. Asking me to separate myself from it is like asking me to cut off a limb. I'm not asking you to separate from it. I'm just asking where I fit. I'm still figuring that out. Lila reached for his hand, but I know I don't want to lose you. That's something, isn't it? It was something, but Noah wasn't sure if it was enough. They flew home Sunday evening, both exhausted from 3 days of constant performance. When Noah picked up Mia from his mom's apartment, his daughter launched herself at him with a squeal. "Daddy, I missed you." "I missed you too, sweetheart." He held her tight, breathing in her familiar scent. This was real. This was his anchor. Linda pulled him aside while Mia gathered her things. "How was it?" "Complicated." "That's becoming your favorite word." She studied his face. "Are you happy?" Noah considered the question. "Sometimes. Other times I'm confused and scared and out of my depth." That's what happens when you care about someone. It's never just happy. Linda squeezed his arm. Just make sure the good outweighs the bad, and the second it doesn't, you walk away, for Mia's sake, if not your own. That night, after Mia was asleep, Noah sat on his couch and looked at his phone. There was a text from Lila, sent an hour ago. "Thank you for coming to New York with me. I know it wasn't easy. You were perfect." He typed back. "Not perfect, just present. There's a difference. I'll take present over perfect any day." Noah set the phone down and closed his eyes, trying to sort through everything he felt. Fear and hope tangled together, doubt and desire pulling in opposite directions. He was falling for Lila Grant. Maybe had already fallen, and he had no idea if she'd be there to catch him when he hit the ground. The article dropped 3 days later. Noah was on a job site, installing new drywall in what would eventually be a home office, when his phone started buzzing nonstop. Text after text, calls from numbers he didn't recognize. He ignored them until Danny walked over, holding up his own phone. Boss? You might want to see this." The headline read, "Tech Darling Lila Grant's Secret Romance. Who is Noah Hayes?" Below it was a photo from the New York Gala. Noah and Lila standing close, her hand on his arm, both of them looking at each other with expressions that were unmistakably intimate. The article dissected everything: his background, his dead wife, his daughter, his financial struggles. They'd found his bankruptcy filing from 3 years ago, quoted anonymous sources saying he was clearly after Lila's money, speculated about whether this was a publicity stunt or genuine relationship. Noah's hand shook as he scrolled through it. They talked to people from his past, former coworkers, neighbors, even someone from his wife's family who said he'd never properly grieved and was looking for a replacement. Every private pain, every struggle, laid out for public consumption. His phone rang. Lila. "Did you see it?" she asked immediately. "Yeah." "Noah, I'm so sorry. My PR team is working on a response. We're going to... They talked to my wife's cousin. They dug up my bankruptcy. They know about Mia." His voice was flat, numb. "You said you could protect us." "I know. I'm sorry. I didn't think they'd go this deep this fast." "Well, they did, and now everyone I know is going to read about how I'm some gold digger who latched onto you because I'm broke and desperate. We'll issue a statement. We'll correct the record." "You can't correct this, Lila. It's out there. My daughter's name is in this article. Do you understand what that means? When she's older, she'll be able to Google her own name and find this." Lila was quiet for a moment. "What do you want me to do?" Noah looked around the job site, at Danny pretending not to listen, at the exposed beams and unfinished walls, his real life suddenly feeling very far away. "I don't know. I need to think. Noah, don't shut me out. We can handle this together." "Can we? Because right now it feels like your world just swallowed mine whole, and I don't know how to get it back." He hung up before she could respond, immediately feeling guilty but too overwhelmed to call back. The rest of the day was a nightmare. More texts, more calls. A journalist showed up at the job site trying to get a comment. Noah's mom called, frantic, saying reporters had been to her apartment. Even Marcus from the catering company reached out, asking if Noah needed time off because the publicity might affect their clients. By the time Noah picked up Mia from preschool, he was barely holding it together. "Daddy, why do you look sad?" Mia asked in the car.
Just a hard day at work, sweetheart. Did you get a boo-boo? Something like that. That evening, after Mia was asleep, Noah sat at his kitchen table with his laptop open, reading and rereading the article. With each pass, his anger grew, not just at the journalist, but at the whole situation, at himself for being naive enough to think he could exist in Lila's world without consequences, at Lila for pulling him into something he wasn't equipped to handle.
His doorbell rang at 9:30. He knew who it would be before he opened it. Lila stood in the hallway, no makeup, hair pulled back, wearing jeans and an old sweatshirt. She looked as wrecked as he felt. "Can I come in?" Noah stepped aside. She entered, glancing toward Mia's bedroom. "She's asleep," he said. "Good. I didn't want to wake her." Lila sat on the couch, and Noah noticed her hands were shaking. "I fired my PR team." "What?" "They leaked information to soften the story. Not the personal stuff about you, but they confirmed we were seeing each other, gave some background on how we met. They thought it would help control the narrative. Instead, it just gave the journalist more ammunition." Noah sat in the chair across from her. "Why would they do that?" "Because they thought managing perception was more important than protecting you. They were wrong. So I fired them." Lila looked at him, her eyes red. "I'm hiring a new team, one that understands boundaries. That doesn't undo what's already out there. I know, but I'm trying to make sure it doesn't get worse." She pulled out her phone, showed him a drafted statement. "This is what we're putting out tomorrow morning. It doesn't confirm or deny our relationship. It just says that you're a private citizen who deserves respect, that Mia is off limits, and that any further speculation will result in legal action." Noah read it, then handed the phone back. "It's good, but it won't stop people from talking."
"No, but it might make them think twice about printing lies." Lila set the phone aside. "I also called the journalist's editor, threatened to sue if they don't retract the speculation about you being a gold digger. They're considering it. You don't have to fight my battles for me." "Yes, I do. This is my fault. I brought you into this world. I should have protected you better." "How? By hiding me? By never being seen together in public?" Noah shook his head. "That's not a relationship. That's a secret." "Then what do you want?" "Because I'll do it. Whatever you need." Noah leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I want my daughter to grow up without people gossiping about her father. I want to be able to do my job without journalists showing up asking questions. I want my life back."
"I can't give you that. Not completely, but I can make it better." Lila moved to sit beside him. "I know you're angry. You have every right to be, but please don't walk away because of this. We can get through it." "Can we?" "Because every time I think we're finding solid ground, something else happens. Jason warning me off, Claire trying to manipulate me, Victoria collecting information, now this article. Your world keeps trying to chew me up and spit me out. Then we leave it." Noah looked at her, startled. "What?" "We step back. No more public events for a while. No more performances. We just exist, quietly, away from all of this." Lila's voice was steady, despite the fear in her eyes. "I don't need to attend every gala and conference. I can scale back, focus on work that doesn't require me to be a public figure." "You'd really do that?" "If it means keeping you, yes." Noah wanted to believe her, but he'd learned that promises made in crisis moments didn't always hold once the dust settled. "I need time," he said, "to process all of this, to figure out what I can actually handle." "How much time?" "I don't know. A week? Maybe more." Lila's face fell, but she nodded. "Okay. Take whatever time you need. I'll be here when you're ready." She stood to leave, and Noah walked her to the door. Before she could go, he caught her hand. "I'm not saying no, I'm just saying not right now." "I understand." She squeezed his hand, then let go. "Take care of yourself, Noah, and give Mia a hug from me." After she left, Noah stood in the doorway for a long time, listening to the building settle around him. Somewhere down the hall, a baby cried. A couple argued. Life continued, messy and ordinary and real. He checked on Mia one more time before bed, watching her sleep with Rexy the dinosaur clutched in her arms. She was the reason for everything he did, the reason he worked 2 jobs, the reason he'd taken Lila's offer in the first place, the reason he had to be careful now. Whatever decision he made, it had to be right for her. not just for him. The next few days passed in uncomfortable limbo. Noah went to work, came home, took care of Mia. He didn't reach out to Lila, and she respected his request for space, sending only one text. "I'm here when you're ready, no pressure." The article faded from the news cycle, replaced by newer scandals and controversies. Lila's statement had done its job. Most outlets backed off, some even published corrections. But the damage was done. Noah's coworkers looked at him differently. Parents at Mia's preschool whispered when he did pickup. His mom kept calling to check on him, worried in that way only mothers could be. On Thursday evening, Noah was making dinner when someone knocked on his door. He opened it to find Martin Reeves standing there with a six-pack of beer and a sympathetic expression. "I'm starting to think you showing up unannounced is becoming a pattern," Noah said. "Only when I think you need a friend." Martin held up the beer. "May I?" They sat at the kitchen table while Mia watched cartoons in the living room, and Martin listened as Noah poured out everything he'd been holding in. The fear, the anger, the confusion about what he wanted versus what was safe. "I love her," Noah said finally, "or I'm falling in love with her. I don't know which is worse." Why would either be worse? Because loving her means accepting a life I never wanted. Media scrutiny, public attention, always performing, and I don't know if I can do that. Martin took a sip of beer. "Can I tell you about my marriage?" Noah nodded. "I met my wife when we were both 23. She was brilliant, passionate, wanted to change the world through journalism, and I was a graduate student who liked peace and quiet in academic life. We were completely mismatched. Everyone told us it wouldn't work." Martin smiled at the memory. And they were right, in a way. It didn't work easily. She traveled constantly for stories. I wanted stability and routine. We fought about it for years. But we also loved each other enough to find compromises. She took fewer international assignments. I learned to be more flexible. We built something that worked for us, not for anyone else's expectations. What happened to her? Cancer. 5 years ago. Martin's voice was steady but sad. And I would give anything for one more fight about her travel schedule, one more compromise, one more day of our imperfect life together. Because it was ours. That's what mattered. Noah felt something loosen in his chest. I'm terrified of making the wrong choice. For Mia, for myself. There is no perfect choice, just the one you can live with. Martin set down his beer. Do you love Lila? Yeah, I do. Does she make you want to be better? Does she respect who you are, even when it's inconvenient for her? Noah thought about Lila firing her PR team, about her offering to step back from public life, about the way she looked at him like he mattered beyond what he could do for her image. Yes, he said quietly. Then the question isn't whether you can handle her world, it's whether you two can build a world together that works for both of you. Martin stood, patting Noah's shoulder. Don't let fear make your decisions. You've already lost too much to fear. After Martin left, Noah sat at the table for a long time, his beer growing warm. Then he pulled out his phone and called Lila. She answered on the first ring. Noah? Are you free tomorrow evening? I can be. Why? Come to dinner, here, with me and Mia, something normal. Okay, what time? 6. And Lila? Yeah? I've been thinking about what you said, about stepping back from public events. And? Don't do that. Not for me. That's your life, your work. I can't ask you to give that up. Then what are you asking? Noah took a breath. I'm asking if we can figure out how to do both, how to protect what matters while still living our lives. I don't know how yet, but I want to try. The relief in Lila's voice was palpable. We can do that. We will do that. No promises it'll be easy. I don't need easy. I just need honest. After they hung up, Noah checked on Mia, who was still engrossed in her cartoons. She looked up at him with a smile. Daddy, is Miss Lila coming over again? Tomorrow night, for dinner. Can we make spaghetti? That's her favorite. How do you know that's her favorite? I asked her last time. She said it reminds her of being little. Mia went back to her show. I like her, Daddy. She's nice. Out of the mouths of children, Noah thought. Sometimes the truth was that simple. Friday evening arrived with Noah's nerves stretched tight. He'd spent too much time cleaning the apartment, making sure everything was perfect, before remembering that Lila had already seen it at its worst. Mia had insisted on helping make the spaghetti, which meant there was sauce splattered on the stove and noodles on the floor, but the effort counted for something. Lila showed up at 6 exactly, carrying flowers for the table and a bottle of wine Noah suspected cost more than his weekly grocery budget. "Hi," she said, looking uncertain in his doorway. "Hi, come in." Mia launched herself at Lila the moment she entered, wrapping her arms around Lila's legs. "Miss Lila, we made spaghetti." "I heard. That's my favorite." Lila crouched down to Mia's level. "Did you help cook it?" "I stirred the sauce and everything." "Then I'm sure it's going to be delicious." They ate dinner at the small table, Mia dominating the conversation with stories about preschool, and her friend Emma, who ate glue and the new dinosaur book she needed from the library. Noah watched Lila engage fully with his daughter, asking questions and laughing at 4-year-old logic, and something settled in him. This was real. This mattered. Whatever complications existed in the outside world, this moment was simple and good. After dinner, while Mia played in her room, Noah and Lila did dishes together. She washed, he dried, the domesticity of it almost jarring. "I've been thinking about what you said," Lila began. "About figuring out how to do both. I have some ideas." "I'm listening." "First, no more surprises. If there's an event you should know about, you know about it. If there's potential media coverage, I warn you. Complete transparency." Good start. Second, we establish boundaries. Mia is completely off limits. Any journalist who tries to involve her gets shut down immediately and permanently. Noah nodded. "I can agree to that." Third, we go public, properly, not through articles and speculation, but on our own terms. A simple statement saying we're seeing each other, we value our privacy, and that's all anyone needs to know. You want to confirm the relationship publicly? It's the only way to control the narrative. Right now, we're letting other people define what we are. If we define it ourselves, there's less room for speculation. Lila set down the dish she was washing. "Unless you don't want to. If you'd rather keep this private, no, I think you're right. The secrecy is what makes it interesting to people. If we're just a normal couple, it gets boring. We're not exactly normal. No. But we can try." Noah dried the last plate, set it aside. "What about the events? I know I said you shouldn't give them up, but I also can't do 3 or 4 a month anymore. It's too much time away from Mia. What if we limited it to 1 a month? The most important ones. And anything else I go alone or skip entirely." "You'd really do that?" "I already started. I turned down 3 invitations this week." Lila leaned against the counter. "I'm realizing that half the events I attend are out of obligation or habit, not necessity. I can be more selective." Noah pulled her close, and she came willingly, resting her head against his chest. "I'm sorry for shutting down this week," he said. "I was scared and angry, and I didn't know how to process it." "You had every right to be. I'm sorry for not protecting you better." They stood like that for a while, the kitchen quiet, except for Mia's singing from the other room. "I have something to tell you," Lila said eventually. "And you're going to be angry." Noah's stomach tightened. "What?" "There's an event next month. The biggest tech summit of the year. I'm receiving an award for my work in sustainable investing." She looked up at him. "I want you there. But I also know it's going to be huge, lots of media, lots of scrutiny. And after everything that just happened, I'll be there." Lila blinked. "Really?" "You said it yourself. We defined this relationship, not them. If you're getting an award, I should be there to celebrate with you. That's what partners do." "Partners?" Lila repeated, testing the word. "Is that what we are?" "I think so. Unless you have a better term." She kissed him then, and it felt different from before. Less tentative, more certain. Like they'd both finally stopped hedging their bets and decided to go all in. When they broke apart, Mia was standing in the doorway, watching them with wide eyes. "Are you going to get married now?" she asked. Noah groaned. "Mia, we talked about this." "But you were kissing. That's what people do before they get married." Lila laughed, the sound genuine and unguarded. "Your dad and I are still figuring things out, sweetheart, but when we do decide to get married, you'll be the first to know. Deal?" "Deal." Mia seemed satisfied with this answer. "Can I show you my new drawings?" "I'd love to see them." Noah watched them disappear into Mia's room. Lila's hand held tight in his daughter's smaller one and felt something click into place. This could work. It wouldn't be easy, but it could work. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Congratulations on going public with Lila. Some advice. Watch your back. Not everyone is happy about it. J. Noah stared at the message, unease creeping up his spine. J. Jason Kraft. He deleted the text without responding, but the warning lingered. The weeks leading up to the tech summit passed in a strange new rhythm. Noah and Lila's relationship was officially acknowledged now. A simple press release that said they were seeing each other and requested privacy. Most outlets respected it, though a few gossip sites still speculated. Noah learned to ignore it. They fell into a routine. Lila came to dinner once a week, always bringing something for Mia, a book, a small toy. Once a science kit they spent an entire evening working on together. She and Noah went on actual dates, just the two of them. Dinner at quiet restaurants, a movie, once a long walk through the city that ended with them sitting by the river, talking until midnight. It felt normal. Almost. But there were still moments when the differences between their worlds became stark. Lila would get a call about a deal worth millions and have to leave dinner early. Noah would have to explain why he couldn't afford to fly to a conference in San Francisco on short notice. She lived in a penthouse apartment he'd only seen once, all modern art and floor-to-ceiling windows. He lived in a one-bedroom where the pipes rattled and the neighbors fought. They were learning to navigate it, but it took effort. The night before the tech summit, Noah couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying not to think about all the ways tomorrow could go wrong. The tuxedo hanging in his closet felt like a costume for a role he still wasn't sure he could play. His phone lit up with a text from Lila. "You awake?" "Yeah, can't sleep. Me neither." "Want company?" "It's midnight, so?" 20 minutes later, there was a soft knock on his door. Noah opened it to find Lila in sweatpants and an old Stanford hoodie, her hair messy, no makeup. "This is a terrible idea," she said, "coming over this late." "The worst," Noah agreed, pulling her inside. They ended up on the couch, her feet tucked under her, his arm around her shoulders. They didn't talk much, just existed together in the quiet. "I'm nervous about tomorrow," Lila admitted. "This award, it's a big deal. It means I've made it by every measure that matters in my industry. But all I can think about is whether you're going to be okay with all the attention." "I'll be fine. I'm more worried about you." "Why?" "Because you're going to be the center of everything tomorrow. Everyone watching, everyone judging, that's a lot of pressure." "I'm used to pressure." "Doesn't make it easier." Lila tilted her head to look at him. "Do you ever regret saying yes to that first event? Back on the rooftop when I gave you my card?" Noah thought about it. "Sometimes, when things get hard, when I feel out of place, but then I think about what I would have missed if I'd said no. Meeting you, really meeting you, and I can't regret that. Even with all the complications? Especially with the complications. They mean it's real." She kissed him softly, then settled back against his shoulder. "I'm glad you're going to be there tomorrow, whatever happens." "Me too." They stayed like that until the early hours, eventually falling asleep on the couch. When Noah woke at 6, Lila was still there, her breathing slow and even. He watched her for a moment, this powerful woman who controlled millions of dollars and shaped industries, vulnerable in sleep. This was who he'd chosen. Who'd chosen him. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The Tech Summit was held at the convention center, transformed for the occasion into something that looked more like a Hollywood awards show than a business event. Red carpet, photographers, celebrities from the tech world arriving in expensive cars. Noah felt his stomach twist as their car pulled up. "Ready?" Lila asked. "No, but let's do it anyway." The cameras started flashing the moment they stepped out. Lila was radiant in a deep blue gown, her confidence on full display. Noah stood beside her in his tuxedo, trying to look natural while his heart hammered in his chest. "Lila, over here." "Who's your date?" "Noah, how does it feel to be with one of tech's most successful investors?" They made their way down the carpet, Lila stopping for photos and brief interviews. She introduced Noah each time with simple dignity. "This is my partner, Noah Hayes." And he shook hands and smiled and tried not to think about how many people were watching. Inside, the venue was packed with people Noah recognized from news articles and magazine covers. CEOs, founders, investors, all of them moving through the space with practiced ease. Lila greeted them with professional warmth, always keeping Noah close, always including him in conversations. But Noah could feel the stares, the speculation. He was the outsider, the one who didn't belong, and everyone knew it. Halfway through the cocktail hour, Noah excused himself to find the bathroom. He was washing his hands when the door opened and Jason Kraft walked in. They locked eyes in the mirror. "Hayes, should have known you'd be here." "Lila's receiving an award. Where else would I be?" Jason moved to the sink beside him, adjusting his tie. "You got my text last week." "Yeah, thanks for the cryptic warning." "It wasn't cryptic. I told you to watch your back." Jason's reflection met Noah's eyes. "There are people in this room who don't like that Lila's distracted, who think her relationship with you is making her soft, less focused." "Let them think whatever they want."
You really don't get it, do you? These people don't just think things. They act on them. They look for weaknesses to exploit, opportunities to undermine. Jason turned to face him directly. "Someone's going to come at you tonight, at both of you. And when they do, you need to be ready." "Why are you telling me this?"
"Because, despite what you think, I'm not the villain here. I tried to warn you before and you didn't listen. So I'm trying one more time." Jason moved toward the door, then paused. "Watch for Victoria Brennan. She's been asking questions about you, digging for dirt. Whatever she's planning, it's happening tonight." He left, and Noah stood alone in the bathroom, his earlier nervousness morphing into something sharper. Fear, maybe. Or determination. He found Lila near the bar talking to a group of investors. She excused herself when she saw his expression. "What's wrong?" "Jason just warned me that someone's going to make a move tonight, against us. He said Victoria's been digging." Lila's jaw tightened. "Did he say what kind of move?" "No, just to watch our backs." "Okay." Lila took a breath, visibly composing herself. "Then we stay alert, stay together, and whatever happens, we handle it." The award ceremony began an hour later. Noah sat in the audience while Lila went backstage with the other honorees. The lights dimmed, a video started playing, highlights from the year in tech, major deals and breakthroughs. Then the awards began. Lila's category was third. The presenter read her accomplishments, the companies she'd funded, the returns she'd generated, her commitment to sustainable and ethical investing. The audience applauded as she took the stage, poised and brilliant under the spotlight. Her speech was everything Noah had come to expect from her. Gracious, intelligent, forward-thinking. She thanked her team, her mentors, the entrepreneurs who'd trusted her with their visions. And at the end, she did something unexpected. "Finally, I want to thank someone who's taught me that success means nothing if you don't have people to share it with. Noah, thank you for reminding me what matters." The camera found Noah in the audience, and he felt his face flush as applause filled the room. Lila smiled at him from the stage, genuine and unguarded, and Noah smiled back despite his discomfort. Then she exited, the next award was announced, and the ceremony continued. During the reception afterward, Noah stayed close to Lila as she navigated congratulations and networking. People shook her hand, posed for photos with her trophy, discussed potential deals. Noah played his role, supportive but not intrusive, exactly as he'd learned. That's when Victoria Brennan appeared. She looked elegant in a black gown, her smile sharp as she approached with a champagne flute in hand. "Lila, congratulations on the award, well deserved." "Victoria, thank you."
"And Noah," Victoria's eyes slid to him, "you must be very proud." "I am. It's sweet, really, the way you two have made this work despite coming from such different worlds." Victoria took a sip of champagne. "Though I have to wonder, Noah, how do you handle the scrutiny, having your entire life examined, every detail picked apart? That must be difficult." Noah's instincts flared. "It has its challenges, I'm sure, especially when those details include things like bankruptcy filings and medical debt." Victoria's smile didn't waver. "It's public record, of course. Anyone can look it up. But still, having it discussed at events like this, that must sting." Lila stepped forward, her voice ice cold. "Victoria, if you have a point, make it." "No point, just observation." Victoria glanced around at the people who'd stopped to listen. "I think it's admirable, actually. Noah here, pulling himself up despite his struggles, finding someone successful to help stabilize his situation, very pragmatic." The implication was clear. Noah was using Lila for money, for stability, for a way out of his financial problems. Noah felt anger rise in his chest,
But before he could respond, Lila spoke. You're right, Victoria. Noah has faced struggles. His wife died, leaving him with a newborn and crushing medical debt. He could have given up, could have taken the easy way out. Instead, he worked 3 jobs to keep his head above water while raising his daughter alone. That's not pragmatic. That's strength. Victoria's smile faltered. And yes, we come from different worlds, Lila continued, her voice carrying. I have money and connections and a successful company. Noah has integrity and authenticity and the courage to be himself in rooms full of people who want him to be something else. I'd say I'm the lucky one in this relationship. The gathered crowd had gone quiet, watching. Victoria recovered quickly. Of course, I didn't mean to imply otherwise. Yes, you did, Noah said, finding his voice. You meant to embarrass us, to make me look like I'm using Lila. But here's the thing, I don't care what you think. I know who I am. I know what this relationship is, and your opinion doesn't change that. He turned to Lila. Can we get out of here? She nodded, taking his hand. Yeah, let's go. They walked away from Victoria, from the crowd, from the reception, out of the convention center and into the cool night air. That was, Lila started. Brutal, Noah finished. Jason was right. She came at us. But we handled it. Lila stopped walking, turning to face him. You were incredible in there. I was pissed. You were honest. And you stood up for yourself, for us. That took courage. Noah pulled her close, not caring who might see. I meant what I said. I don't care what they think. Good. Neither do I. They stood there on the sidewalk, the sounds of the city around them, and Noah realized something. He'd spent months feeling like he didn't belong in Lila's world. But maybe the point wasn't to belong. Maybe the point was to build something new together, something that didn't fit neatly into either of their old lives. Take me home, Lila said quietly. Your place or mine? Yours. I want to see Mia in the morning, if that's okay. Noah smiled. Yeah, that's more than okay. They drove through the city in comfortable silence, and when they arrived at his apartment, his mom was on the couch reading. How was it? Linda asked, looking up. Eventful, Noah said. But good. Is Mia asleep? Out like a light. Sweet girl. Linda stood, gathering her things. She paused when she saw Lila. Hello, dear. Congratulations on your award. Thank you, Mrs. Hayes. Linda, please. She looked between them, something knowing in her expression. I'll see myself out. You two look like you need some quiet. After she left, Noah and Lila checked on Mia, still fast asleep, then collapsed on the couch together. What a night, Lila said. What a few months, Noah corrected. She laughed, the sound tired but genuine. Yeah, that too. They sat in the dim light of the living room, both still in their formal clothes, too exhausted to move. Noah? Yeah? Thank you. For standing by me tonight, for defending us. You did the same for me. That's what partners do, right? Noah pulled her closer. Yeah, that's exactly what partners do. And for the first time in months, Noah felt like they might actually make it work. Not despite their differences, but because of them. Because they chose each other every day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. 3 months after the tech summit, Noah stood in the kitchen of a house he was renovating, phone pressed to his ear, listening to Lila negotiate a deal worth more money than he'd see in 10 lifetimes. She was in her office across town, but she'd called him during a break just to hear his voice. Sorry, I'm probably boring you, she said. You're not. I like hearing you work. You get this edge in your voice when you know you're winning. She laughed. I'll call you back after this closes. Love you. Love you too. He hung up and stood there for a moment, still getting used to how easily those words came now. It had taken them 6 weeks to say it the first time, both of them terrified, both of them meaning it completely. Danny walked in carrying 2x4s. That the girlfriend? Yeah. You got that stupid smile again? It's disgusting. But Danny was grinning too. You heading out early today? If we finish the framing, Mia's got her preschool graduation thing tonight. Go! We got this. Tell the kid congrats from Uncle Danny. Noah made it to the preschool just as parents were filing in. Lila was already there, sitting in the back row, looking slightly out of place in her work clothes, among the yoga pants and casual wear of the other parents. She waved him over. You made it, she said, moving her purse so he could sit. Wouldn't miss it. Noah scanned the room until he spotted Mia in the front row with her class, wearing a construction paper mortarboard that was sliding off her head. She saw him and waved frantically. The ceremony was exactly what you'd expect. Off-key singing, a slideshow of the year's activities, each child receiving a certificate while parents took too many photos. When Mia's name was called, she walked up with her head high, shook the teacher's hand like a professional, then looked directly at Noah and Lila and gave them a thumbs up. She's amazing, Lila whispered. Yeah, she really is. After the ceremony, Mia ran to them, diploma clutched in her hand. Did you see me? I didn't trip. You were perfect, Noah said, scooping her up. We're so proud of you, Lila added, and Mia beamed. They went for ice cream afterward. The three of them squeezed into a booth at the place near the park. Mia got chocolate with gummy bears and made a spectacular mess while telling them everything she was excited about for kindergarten in the fall. And Miss Sandra says I'm good at sharing now. I used to not be good at it, but I practiced. She looked at Lila very seriously. Do you want to try my ice cream? That's sharing. I'd love to. Lila took the offered spoon, tasted it, and made appropriate impressed noises. Delicious. Thank you for sharing. Noah watched them and felt something settle deep in his chest. This wasn't the life he'd imagined when Lila first handed him her business card on that rooftop. It was better because it was real, messy and imperfect, and built day by day. That evening, after Mia was in bed, Noah and Lila sat on his apartment balcony, a tiny thing, barely big enough for 2 chairs, looking out at the city lights. I've been thinking about something, Lila said. Yeah? My lease is up in 2 months, and I was wondering. She trailed off, uncharacteristically hesitant. Wondering what? If maybe I should look for a place with more space, room for an office, maybe a guest room, or a kid's room. She glanced at him. If that's something you'd be interested in? Eventually, no pressure. Noah's heart kicked up. You're talking about moving in together. I'm talking about the possibility. I know it's fast and Mia has to be the priority, and we'd need to do it right. Yes. Lila stopped mid-sentence. Yes? Not tomorrow, not even next month. But yeah, I want that. A place that's ours. Where Mia can have her own room, and you can have space to work, and we can just be a family. Noah reached for her hand. A real one. A real one, Lila repeated, testing the words. Then she smiled, the kind of smile that reached her eyes and softened everything about her. Okay, let's do it. Let's build something real. And they did. Not perfectly. There were still arguments about time and priorities, still moments when their different worlds collided uncomfortably. Lila still worked too much sometimes. Noah still felt out of place at certain events. They still had to navigate media attention and public scrutiny and all the complications that came with their very different lives. But they also had Saturday morning pancakes and Mia's laughter filling their new apartment. They had quiet evenings where Lila read bedtime stories in character voices that made Mia giggle. They had Noah teaching Lila how to fix a leaky faucet and Lila teaching Noah about investment strategies over dinner. They had the ordinary, extraordinary work of building a life together. 6 months later, on a random Tuesday evening while they were doing dishes, Noah said, "Marry me." Lila nearly dropped the plate she was washing. What? Marry me. Not because it makes sense for your image or my finances or anyone else's expectations, just because I love you and I want to spend my life with you. That's not a very romantic proposal. You want romantic? I can get down on one knee right here in the kitchen with dish soap on my hands. I can hire a skywriter or rent out a fancy restaurant, but that's not us. We're the people who fell in love over investor dinners and dinosaur toys and figuring out how to make 2 impossible worlds fit together. Lila set down the plate, dried her hands, and turned to face him fully. You're right. That's not us. She moved closer, and Noah saw tears in her eyes. But yes. My answer is yes. They kissed there in the kitchen, and Mia, who'd been listening from the hallway, ran in screaming, I knew it! I knew you'd get married! And Noah Hayes, who'd started this journey just trying to pay his daughter's preschool tuition, who'd been terrified and out of his depth and certain he didn't belong, realized something important. Sometimes the best things in life don't come from fitting into someone else's world. They come from having the courage to build your own, with someone brave enough to build it beside you. Not perfectly, not smoothly, but honestly, and with enough love to make even the hardest days worth it. That was the real success. Not the money or the status or the perfect performance. Just two imperfect people choosing each other every single day and making something beautiful out of the mess.